That's the launch, Evan.
That's the launch. This is the big show, Cliff. We're here.
We're doing the big show. It's 6 a.m. on the East Coast. And we're here for you folks, bringing you some Right Sides Only radio. Big show.
It's 0500 in the state of Texas, and the O stands for, oh my God, it's early.
It's 3 a.m. on the West Coast part of Right Sides Only Studios.
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, so there is nobody in California listening to us right now except you.
Exactly.
And your dogs. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, the dog's roaming through the house going, why are we up? What are we doing here?
No, it really kind of throws everything off balance. So
that's all right, man. We're excited to be here.
The fact that,
we're excited to be here, Evan.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've done this.
Yep.
I hope that we do it in the future. So we're going to see how this whole thing shakes loose. If you're listening in right now through the app that you can get on Google Play or iTunes, if you're listening through the app right now, we're excited to hear some feedback. We want to know how it goes. We want to know if you like the show. If you're actually tuning into us, which the whole intent was that you would get your coffee, you would get in your car or your truck or whatever it is you're driving, or even your motorcycle, plop in the old earbuds, however you choose to listen to us.
Oh, yeah.
And take us with you on your ride to work.
Well, we'll hang out with you guys for the next 3 hours easily here for the big show. Like Evan said, if you're following us on the app, get the app out of your onto your device. Listen to us Bluetooth in the car, at the office, whatever you got planned today. We want to go too.
Yeah, take us with you.
And then tweet back to us at Right Sides Radio. Let us know you're listening. Share some of that content with us. We would love to respond to that. And the phone lines are open.
You just stole the thunder. Yeah,
go for it, Thunder Buddy.
No, I was just going to say, hey man, phone lines are open. 855-482-7223.
Yeah, you
can call us direct. So there's several different ways you can interact with us. So you can interact with us on our Facebook page. You can interact with us on the Twitter, and actually Instagram too. But more importantly, you can actually call in this morning, sipping your coffee. And here's what Cliff and I are all about: the entire experience. So if you want to call and you want to complain about something you heard or you saw, if you want to challenge Cliff and I on one of our opinions, anything, if you just want to call and you just want to talk, work.
Yeah, you know what?
Cliff and I are here for you.
Yeah, we're here. Yeah.
So I wish we had some really dramatic romance music we could play for that, because that sounded pretty good.
It did, but we don't.
But we don't. So you're just going to have to not get that.
Yeah. No, Evan and I, like we said, I mean the calling in thing, I understand is a little. What would you call it? Not strange. The fact is that this is one of the ways that we found that we thought that folks would interact with us during the live show. So, like I said, Evan said, the phone lines are open. They're going to be open for the next 3 hours. 855-482-7223 will get you on. And then, Evan, we're also dropping the first official Right Sides Only radio sticker. And
they are here, folks. They are actually in stock.
They're in stock. They're available, and we want you guys to have one. We want you to put it wherever, the beer fridge, the toolbox, the back window, wherever you might find a spot for this. These aren't small, folks. Obviously, we like to go big with things like the big show. And so we figured we'd drop these stickers on you guys today. If you want to call in and let us know that you want a sticker, they're out there on Twitter at Right Sides Radio on our Twitter page. You can check them out there. But go ahead and drop us a line. Give us a phone call, and we'll get those out to you guys.
They're nice. They really stick out.
Yeah.
Rim shot.
Hey.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah. But anyways, so the big show, we looked at this as an opportunity to bridge the gap between the end of the regular season, which we just finished out of Richmond over the weekend, and we're headed into the chase. We have our 16 drivers set. We're obviously going to go through that today. We're going to pick apart kind of where the chase stands. Obviously, there's a small contingent of drivers who were probably sweating a little bit out there at Richmond, hoping to secure their spot in the chase for the 2016 season, which has happened now. So we're going to pick that apart. And then our guests. We have some guests on for the big show today, Evan. Some big guests. We got Gary Klutt, NASCAR next driver, who will be joining us later on in the show. We have David Groseclose, senior tire manager for NASCAR, works directly with Goodyear and the development team out of NASCAR for tires, and we know how important tires are.
Tires are everything.
Yeah, they are everything. We were talking about this last night before we started getting the show together. So we're really looking forward to talking to David later on in the show. And then Lexi Gay, 15 years old. I mean, it's been great, on Right Sides Only Radio, where we've had some of these guests, these guys and gals that are kind of up and coming, chasing their dreams and that sort of thing. 15 years old. Lexi Gay will be joining us on the show later on this morning. And we're going to pick her brain, see what she's up to, what she's looking forward to for the rest of her season and on into her future as well.
Yeah. Great guest. We're definitely excited. We're very honored to have the complement of people that we do that are willing and capable to come on the show. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we would be a little bit remiss if we also didn't thank some of our promotional partners out there that have been supporting us as well. Obviously, you're aware, Zip Air Tools, phenomenal Nectar sunglasses. Right now, this guy is being fueled by 3030 Coffee. I'm actually drinking some of their Finca La Cruz, which is, I got to tell you, I'm set for the day. I need no more coffee. I'm sure 3030 hates to hear that, but I can tell you right now, after about 12 ounces of a little something from 3030, that's it. I'm set. So
there you go.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah,
really
check out. We talk about 3030 a lot. Obviously, they are what would you call that? Is that like boutique coffee? Is that what people call that, boutique coffee? Or, what is that genre?
Boutique as much as it is. I mean, they're kind of a third wave coffee company. They're independent, locally owned in Peoria, Illinois. And what's really great about a company like that is that they can kind of dial in. I mean, they really put a lot of thought into the end product. I mean, all the work done on the kind of the back end is what produces such a fantastic product. So everything from the way that it's harvested, altitude, the way that it's dried, the way that it's roasted, they put all that forethought into making a cup of coffee for you.
Yeah.
So
check
not
them out.
Not just that, but they're also really big about ethics and making sure that the growers treat their employees with some dignity and respect and give back to their local communities as well.
Right.
So it's really kind of a neat deal.
Yeah. They're standout amongst the coffee crowd out there for sure. Check them out at, here's a unique thing, 30-30, spell it out, 30-30coffee.com. The one cool thing, Peoria, Illinois is where their shop is at, but online you can sign up or order product from their website directly. They have a coffee subscription where they will keep your coffers full of their excellent coffee throughout the month, sending you bags of stuff every week, every couple weeks, once a month, whatever your palette requires. Evan mentioned Zip Air Tools. So this is one of the neat things for Right Sides Only Radio. Zip Air Tools has given us a promo code. We talk about Zip Air Tools. They're a great sponsor of Brian Obajinsky, who we obviously support and talk about quite a bit on the show here. Zip Air Tools being one of his big sponsors behind his efforts. They gave us RSOR 16, Evan, to save folks 25% off of all their excellent products out there. And if you're looking for this stuff, they don't make just
air tools. They make tanks. I mean, these things are like heirloom quality things you're going to pass on to your kids.
Yeah.
So just remember, they make a great product. It's quality. They're very active, obviously, like Cliff just said, in the racing community. Matt Wallace actually is another gentleman that they have gotten behind. And typically, if you're following these drivers, the 29 of Obi, who is, we're going to give a big shout out to Brian Obajinsky. We just love us some Obi, or Matt Wallace, and you'll realize Isaac and all the guys with Zip, they spend a lot of time traveling, getting out to these tracks, and being there to support the drivers. And that means a lot to these drivers. So we stand behind them. They're great guys. We interact with them a lot on social media. They're just fantastic people, and I'm sure we'll be talking about them later on during the show as well. So be sure to check them out. And like I said, it's coming up. Christmas time is coming up, folks.
Yep.
So opportunities galore to go find something for your favorite guy or your favorite girl who just happens to love air tools. Who knows?
Yeah, right.
You know, I mean, who doesn't love air tools?
We'll stop right there.
So let's talk a little bit about, since we're on the topic of racing, because that's actually what we do.
Oh yeah.
What an interesting weekend it has been for motorsports. Not necessarily the Xfinity race. I mean, there should be no surprise how that turned out. Yeah. So that was just a straight domination. It's like, okay, everybody, go ahead and park your. Go ahead and.
It makes it difficult to talk about, right?
It really does. And I know. I'm just kind of. I kid a lot about Kyle Busch's just flat domination. Now they're breaking their own records, so they're actually. It's like Joe Gibbs is actually breaking their own records because there's no one else capable of breaking any of the records. So the only person who can break. The only people who can break their record is them, because they're basically there's no one else can actually.
Hey,
beat
but you
them,
know what? That's a unique situation to be in, though. You know, when you're setting your own records and then going back out and breaking them. I mean, that's not a typical situation that a lot of people find themselves in. So, you know, you can't shame the guy for being as good as he is for what he does, for sure. And you know, certainly people have their opinions and their perspectives on Kyle Busch and how dominant he is and his attitude and all that other sort of stuff. But, you know, you got to give the guy mad props for the fact that, you know, he is so good at what he does. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I like the kid a lot.
Oh, I know, dude. I'm not slighting you saying you're throwing him under the bus. I'm just saying the fact that, you know, it's kind of like I said, it's a pretty unique situation to see somebody be as good as they are. And especially, you know, we talk about this all the time and we hear it out there in the Twitter sphere and everywhere else, the fact that, you know, the old days and Dale Sr. and this and that and this and that. But we're getting that kind of stuff right in front of our eyes every weekend.
Well, and I think that is, and we've beaten this thing up probably as much, and actually the NASCAR community has beaten this up probably as much as, I think it's the horses long dead.
Oh, yeah.
But I have every reason to believe that if it were somebody else doing it, that people probably wouldn't be as protagonist about it. I mean, I think the fact that Kyle Busch can be somewhat polarizing, and in all fairness, has really worked to change that image. Him and his brother both. I don't know. So but I guess my point is, it should. If y'all didn't watch the Xfinity race, let me go ahead and just break the news. Kyle Busch won by like 750 laps. So, I mean, just a straight domination. And hey, like I said, you know, more power to them. And of course, you know, let's not forget that there are chase implications. There's 2 more races left in the Xfinity series before their chase kicks off. And they're with the chase implications in Xfinity is the people with the vast majority of the wins have no stake in the chase whatsoever. So it's going to make that a little bit interesting because very few of the drivers that are entering into the chase have had any actual wins. So it's
created its own irony.
It's, you know? Yeah, I am my own grandpa kind of scenario.
Right?
So
yeah, exactly.
But you kind of, I guess you got to take it for what it is. And right now, Elliott Sadler is sitting on top. He's sitting on top with 2 wins. You got Daniel Suarez, Justin Allgaier, Ty Dillon, Brendan Gaughan, Eric Jones, Brendan Poole, Brandon Jones, Darrell Wallace. But I mean, right now, your top 5, out of your top 5, there's 3 wins coming by way of 2 drivers. Eric Jones has got 3, so he's actually your most winningest in the Xfinity series. Yeah, driver so far. And guess what? So that accounts for 6 races out of 7 races. Actually, 7. There's been 7 wins because Justin Marks snatched one.
Right.
7 races out of how many they run during a regular season? So all going to Kyle Busch. So,
but what's interesting about that? I mean, I'm sure this can be somewhat confusing for some folks that follow the sport. Is, you know, the fact that how do you get these dominating drivers like this or guys out of the Cup Series that are winning races like that and kind of stealing the show, I would say, to some degree, from the Xfinity regulars there. So it creates kind of a quandary when you're trying to understand how that chase plays out and you've never really seen the guy in victory lane. I mean, at this point, for a lot of this, it just really comes down to points,
Sure. I mean, and that's the way it's going to be. Of course, now going into the chase, here's what you're going to have it's going to be interesting to see what happens during the chase, how dominant some of these cars that may or may not have seemed very dominant because they were in this huge shadow the entire season.
Right.
Be interesting to see how they actually, the other thing is too, is if you're getting beat by the best, you're learning from the best. So I can't help but wonder if racing against a guy like Kyle Busch week in and week out, even though it's probably frustrating, especially if you feel like you have a first-place car, which I'll be honest with you, there's really only a couple of teams in the garage that really do, and they're going to be your elite-level teams, right. So they're going to be your Penske, Junior Motorsports, and Joe Gibbs. Roush Fenway has been doing they're about consistent, basically, in Xfinity as they are in Cup, which right. is they're showing continuous improvement.
Right.
But I know it's got to be frustrating, but I also, in my mind's eye, I can't help but wonder if it doesn't do people some good to race around people like that, because like you said, a rising tide raises all ships. So. Right. They have to bring something to the table in the way of experience and mentoring for these other young drivers. And I also kind of wonder if, like in the case of Penske, who's actually tacking on an additional team next year
yep.
in the Xfinity Series, I can't help but wonder if at some point they don't start dialing back the amount of races that they participate in the slowly handing that over to the up-and-coming generation. Because let's face it, there's a whole wave of talented young drivers coming into the sport that need some place to go, that need something to land in. So right. Eric Jones is going to be moving into Cup. That's obviously one of the big stories of the season. So I guess my question is, okay, so does that mean, and here's what's interesting, does that mean he's going to be running Xfinity and Cup? Yeah. Kind of wonder what that's going to look like. And you got William Byron going to Junior Motorsports and Xfinity. Awkward.
Yeah.
But so we know who he's not running for in the
right.
Truck Series.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see what the landscape looks like going into 2017.
Mm-hmm. I expect we're going to see a lot of, even with the chase where it stands right now on the Cup side. It certainly highlights the movement and the rapid development of, I would say, a lot of these young up-and-coming drivers. 2017 certainly going to produce a fair amount of fresh names and young faces and a ton of talent out there. I don't know about you. We've been talking about this off and on about the Truck Series as well. That's the same thing, and those guys are racing tough out there, from the truck side. So the feeder programs, whether they're in the Truck Series or in Xfinity or whatever. We kind of highlighted this throughout the several shows so far this season. The fact is, that development pipeline that all those major teams have going right now, we can certainly see, and Evan, you and I had talked about this kind of offline, that, and we could dive into this a little bit at some point, but I suspect that what we're going to see soon is, that lengthy tenure of driving, it kind of causes me to ask the question, are the days of watching a driver do 10, 15, 20 years kind of somewhat in the rearview mirror for us, and are we likely to see drivers that are in there for a much shorter period of time? Because the talent pool is starting to show some depth, and it's going to be easy, I think, for a lot of teams to start working on their development programs in such a way that they're going to have a bench, and be able to put drivers behind the wheel in order to get the wins that they're looking for.
Well, a case in point. Basically, let's say a year ago, William Byron was running in, like super late model. he hits the scene in the Truck Series. There's 15 races in the regular Camping World Truck Series season, and he wins a third of those.
Right.
He's won 5 races this season. So the talent should be obvious to everybody, and Rick Hendrick, being the genius he is for that business, immediately says, yeah, we can't let this kid go by the wayside or go to the competition.
Yeah. I don't know if that's crazy thinking or not, though. I mean, I throw that out there in that, I try to look at, what NASCAR does or what these big teams do from the perspective of, how we deal with jobs, family, life stuff, and part of me, we're always contending with the popularity of the sport, the ability to keep the stands full, the ability to engage new fans. We look at all these various elements, and, certainly sticking some of those young drivers on Snapchat and the social media stuff and putting them out in front of the crowd that way is great. But like I said, it almost seems like, I wonder if a lot more of the contingency stuff is starting to kind of show up a little bit out there in any one of the series. There's certainly marketing value to, we've talked about Dale Jr. and, everybody knows most popular driver and all that other sort of stuff. And I just kind of wonder if that young up and coming or new fan, if they have that appetite to stay committed to a particular individual for 20 plus years, And so I kind of wonder sometimes if our sport is kind of going into that transition period now where, we're the performance is key. I mean, is it outside the realm to say, look, you've been here 3 to 5 years, the performance hasn't really been there, we need to move on, and in the meantime, we have the pipeline somewhat stuffed with several drivers deep that are able to come in and have the level of performance we want. I understand, dude. Like, you always accuse me of the black helicopters conspiracy type stuff. But honestly, I look at that to say, is the longevity of a driver behind the wheel now, is that likely to become shortened, I would say, over the next 5 to 10 years? Because, again, if I'm a team owner, I want the best guy I can have behind the wheel. And, the best guy in the beginning of one season or 2 seasons is not necessarily the best guy 3, 5, 10 years down the road.
Well, and I mean, I agree with you. The problem is, and I always wonder, it's like, okay, they're struggling. Like Casey Kane, for instance, has had great success early on in his Cup career. So
right.
Something has, whatever it is that has clicked or not clicked, that has kind of driven the issues that they're having right now. In my mind, I kind of think, when a driver is struggling, one of the worst things that happens is their confidence level drops, and they've got to have confidence. They have to have confidence in their crew. They have to have confidence in the car. They have to have confidence in their crew chief. They have to have confidence in their own ability.
Right.
So why not? And I know the answer, so
don't answer it for you.
But I always think, and I hear people actually on Twitter say it too, well, why not stuff them down in Xfinity or the Truck Series and let them win a few races and get their confidence back? Well, it's just not that easy. I mean, number one, they're not intertwined like a professional baseball team is, where you have a struggling pitcher, so you drop them down to AAA for a handful of games, let them get their mind right and kind of get their confidence level back. It's not that easy. The other issue is a driver can continue to bring in huge sponsorship dollars.
Sure.
Because they have to bring those to the table to even be in the car.
Right.
So they have an opportunity, even when they are suffering on the track, they still have the opportunity to bring star power and big money to the table. And a prime example, and I'm probably going to get tomatoes thrown at me, and that's fine, a prime example is Danica Patrick.
Right.
And if you just look at Danica Patrick by the numbers, and I think I made the comment to you earlier in the week, she's not a superstar by statistics, she's a superstar by status. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and I'm not in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
That sounds mean.
No, that's absolutely not. That's absolutely not where I'm going with it. My point is, you're talking about a car, and if you want to eliminate the driver and you just want to look at the car itself, then you're looking at a car that drives itself to an average finish of like 25th.
Right.
So it's a lead lap, top 30 competing car.
Right.
That manages to bring in a lot of money to
the team.
Stewart Haas.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I'm not, like I said, I love Danica Patrick, and I think that what she does for the sport, I do think she brings more to the table than people give her credit.
Sure.
Number one, it brings some credit trying to do something to promote diversity. Now, that being said, in my mind's eye, I think, well, for that matter, there's a lot of young women out there that would love to have that spot.
Sure.
Now, could Danica do good by going back and racing in the Camping World Truck Series or the Xfinity Series and developing some of those skills as far as, telling the crew chief? I mean, that's another problem, too, is communicating with the crew chief. I'm telling you one thing, you're hearing another, vice versa.
And we're going the wrong direction.
And we're all going in the wrong direction, right?
Yeah.
Is that a knock against her as a driver, as a person? Absolutely not. Do we sometimes do people an injustice by rushing them to the big leagues and not giving them some opportunities to earn their stripes, so to speak, to actually to earn a little bit of respect amongst the people in the garage? I think some people kind of they bring that to the table automatic, like William Byron. I don't think that kid's going to have any problem.
No.
I really don't. And it's obvious that, to me, that's the perfect example of you take someone that's got top-level talent and you stick them in an elite-level team,
right,
and they're going to succeed.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of talent out there traveling around in circles in 25th and 30th that just can't get in the equipment. Chris Buescher, prime example. Prime example right there. I mean, front row motorsports is right there on the cusp, and I'm hoping this is a breakthrough moment for front row, and I hope they get some sponsorship dollars thrown their way for Chris getting thrown into the chase.
Yeah.
But this is such a big money deal that people need to try to get their heads around. Right, wrong, or indifferent, people need to get their heads around. You can be a driver that finishes 25th, 26th every weekend.
Right.
To the table. These cars are not cheap to run.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting about Buescher. You said that, right? So, here you have a team that was not, up until about 3-4 weeks ago, was not necessarily a contender for the chase. They got lucky. Got lucky with a rain out at Pocono, finished up the race. He's in. Now, like you said, I got to imagine the activity surrounding trying to get extra dollars in, because now we got the car into the chase, and we got to throw everything at it to try to compete as much as we can through the rest of the chase. So, certainly that element of what Chris Buescher's able to do in terms of performance on the track and driving and that sort of thing is certainly compounded by those that he has behind him to support that effort, so that he can get into, or they can get the money that they need to spend to keep that car competitive through the rest of the chase.
Yeah, I mean, because this puts them in an avenue that, number one, they're not used to.
Yeah.
This is a new thing for Chris Buescher.
It's a pivot. Got to pivot to the chase now.
Chris Buescher is a rookie. He was one of the rookies we were looking at in the beginning of the season and evaluating which one of these rookies was going to be the first to win a Cup race. Yeah. And it so happened to be Chris Buescher, and I think that's fantastic.
And it's interesting to see, has that kind of taken the spotlight off of Chase right now? I mean, Chase has done an excellent job being in, ironically, 24 points to the good going into the chase. But, now it seems as though the stories kind of focus mostly on Chris Buescher, because at this point, somewhat I guess you can call him an underdog team, but, it certainly doesn't have the money that Hendrick's got. And, it's interesting to see how that team's going to play out now in the rest of the chase. And like I said, it almost seems like the focus gets taken off of Chase just a tad bit.
I don't know that Chase suffers from a lack of.
No, he's not suffering from that. I
think he's gotten kind of the lion's share. Him and Ryan Blaney both have gotten the lion's share of attention.
I'm just saying I don't see the level of excitement. I think, looking at a driver like Chase Elliott making it into the chase in his first year without securing a win, which was a huge accomplishment in itself to point his way into it. which is awesome.
Sure. Here's the deal. There's been so much pressure on Chase Elliott. We've done it. So much pressure on Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott to win a race. I mean, enormous. Every single weekend, people are talking about, is this going to be Ryan Blaney's weekend? Is this going to be Chase Elliott's weekend? They're battling neck and neck. Basically, when you see one car, you see the other, which tells me that we're talent-wise, they're right there neck and neck with each other.
Right.
But that's a lot of pressure for a rookie.
Yeah.
Some of these guys have raced several years in the Cup Series and have either yet to win a race, or it took them several years in the Cup Series to win a race.
Right.
And that's even in top shelf equipment. We're not even talking about the underfunded guys who are struggling every weekend. We're talking about even some of the elite level teams. So I think we're putting a lot of pressure on these young people to win races, because that's the story we want, right? We want the 20-year-old from Dawsonville to win a Cup race.
Right.
That seems to be the storyline right now.
Yeah.
And almost blocking out all the other stories.
Could
that makes any sense?
Sure.
When you think about it, I mean, Chase Elliott winning a race seems to be at the forefront of everyone's mind. Everyone's talking about it. Everybody wants it to happen, like Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
And it kind of overshadows the fact that you've got several teams going into the chase that have had horrible luck over the past several weeks.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, people ought to be paying attention to the fact that Kyle Busch can't seem to keep his car together. Of course, that's kind of funny. He seems to have someone to blame for that.
Yeah.
But he seems to think the two-car might be out to get him a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
But apparently everyone seems to think that Keselowski is like the bad guy now, so him and Kenseth have rekindled some old feelings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll have to get into all that. Hey, guys, you're listening to Right Sides Only Radio podcast. We're live. We're doing our big show today. Evan and I, we're actually going to have to take breaks. We're doing 3 hours, so we're going to do a quick little break. We'll be back on the mics here shortly. If you want to join us, 855-482-7223. Get you on the line with us if you're up and at 'em this morning and you're looking for something to do, driving in. Maybe you're sitting in traffic somewhere, listening to us, or at the office already, and you want to give us a ring, do it. 855-482-7223. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Y'all listening to Right Sides Only Radio. We're back.
That was nice.
That was nice. Little break, folks. We're gonna need breaks here. We've got 3 hours. It's
little cat stretch and yawn and
yeah. TCOB.
Shake some of the old sleep out. So we're talking about, I guess, interesting chase implications, expectations that we put on people. Maybe sometimes seemingly unreasonable expectations that we put on people, but. Like I said, interestingly enough, while nobody's looking, bam, Buescher steps up, pulls a race. I love his response, by the way, because obviously this always precipitates us into a seething cauldron of debate, if you will, about whether or not a win like that is a legitimate win. Me, as far as I'm concerned, completely legitimate. And as far as that team is concerned, I guarantee they're looking at that as a W in the old win column. And I guarantee their sponsors see that as a W. So I'm not really sure why fans don't see it. But when Buescher was actually questioned about it, they asked him if he felt like he belonged in the chase. And he was like, yeah, absolutely.
That's why he's there every week.
Absolutely. He is there to do that. And he made the comment. And I thought it was I high-fived myself when he said it. He said, we picked a strategy that 39 other teams didn't do.
Yeah, there you go.
So,
thinking man's game right there, folks.
What now?
Yeah.
What he said, dropped the mic and walked away, you know?
Yep.
And that's a guy who typically does not, they did a great profile on him over the weekend. It's typically, Chris Buescher's kind of a guy that really he doesn't command a lot of spotlight. Right. He really kind of likes to just kind of linger in the background and, so this whole thing for him has been unique in the respect that now he's getting an awful lot of attention. I'm happy. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Front Row Motorsports to be amongst. If you look at the picture of the drivers going into the chase, and you see Chris Buescher, just kind of makes you happy. It's like, there he is.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't know, from a fan perspective, when you look at wins like this, like you said, we're not trying to take anything away. The fact is, what a lot of people have to understand when they watch this sport, and especially, I'm speaking to people because we know we have followers and listeners that aren't necessarily NASCAR fans. So breaking this down in a way to help them understand this better. When these drivers are out there each week contending for a win, it's not just the win in our regular season. Our regular season wins are predicated by the fact that they're trying to birth themselves into the chase, which we're at right now with these 16 drivers. So the fact is that, not to remove anything from Chris Buescher, but the fact is that he took a win based off of, like you said, a strategy that nobody else was playing at the time, and weather had a huge part in that. And, it kind of dictated how that team was going to play its cards at that race in Pocono. So, the fact is that, the challenge enough to win a race against some of the top premier teams in this sport is difficult enough. But when you get into a situation, and that situation likely produced itself by like I said, the weather and just the way the weekend went and the way the race was playing out. That's how easy it is well, I won't say easy. I take that back. I guess that's the challenge that presents itself at each one of these races every weekend to get yourself as close as possible to taking those checkers at the end. We had a rain-shortened race. This gentleman, Chris Buescher, that we're talking about, when you're halfway through the race, NASCAR can call it good if the rain or the weather or the conditions aren't going to get them through the race. So that alone, like you said, that's a huge testament to the strategy that's involved in this sport. That we're looking at the weather. We know weather's coming. We're going to get ourselves into a position if they red flag this race or stop it due to the weather, you're the lead car. And he sat there, and even at that time, NBC Sports was doing talking to him on the radio or whatever, picking his brain about, dude, you're the lead car right now. You're going to win this thing. And it's totally cool to see that. To see that team kind of put together and play out that strategy and get themselves that win, which has now got them into this chase.
Absolutely. And like I said, regardless of how you go about it, whether it be pit strategy, fuel strategy, tire strategy.
Yeah.
Actually, if you look at Richmond, Saturday evening, that looked like it was going to come down to an interesting strategy because there was only a handful of teams that had a complete set of sticker tires left.
Right. Yep.
I think you and I counted. I knew we knew two teams for certain had a full set, but that was pretty much it. So if that race really drug out too much longer, too many more cautions, people really kind of had to start thinking about what they were going to do for tires. So
right.
Obviously it all worked out. And the race results were what they were. Denny Hamlin, of course, was in the 11 car was your winner for Richmond, thus kind of sealing the deal going into the chase. It is what it is. So that's it, people. The top 16, the 16 drivers in the chase are the 16 drivers in the chase. There's no turning back now. So it's time to pick your nation, whatever you're into.
Yeah. Are you asking me what nation I'm a part of?
So for you, I guess non-NASCAR fans or people that are just now becoming NASCAR fans or people that have been turned on to NASCAR because of Cliff and I, whatever your story is, realize that this chase series is this particular chase is new. We've always had a chase of sorts.
Yeah.
This new program basically is 16 drivers go in, and then through a course of 4 races, drivers are eliminated. So by the time you get to the championship race in Homestead, you have paired the field of 16 down to a final 4.
Yeah.
So not to be too closely confused with the NCAA Final 4, but kind of in a way. It's a bracket system, and some people think that it's new, fresh, exhilarating, and exciting.
Yeah.
And some people, I probably heard more controversy over the new chase format than anything else. I mean, that was like the longest season was after they announced that new bracket system. Listening to Sirius XM NASCAR and Dave Moody and the Bagman and Pete Pistone having to field call after call after call after call after call after. I'm never watching NASCAR again. That was always like a famous. That was almost like the famous call in was people called in. I'm never watching NASCAR again.
I want to ask you about that before we do. So we're live right now. If you guys want to call us 855-482-7223.
Call and complain about the chase grid.
Yeah, no, I'm going to propose a question. The reason I did that specifically because I'm interested. Right when the chase, like you said, the chase isn't new. What is new is the format, and I wanted to ask your opinion about this, Evan. Is we're 2-3 years into the new chase format, the old format, which was primarily focused just on points up until the last race of the season. What is your opinion when they dropped the new chase format, which we're in right now? What was your opinion in that change? Like you said, the world started to melt down a little bit for some of the other fans, and some people seemingly embraced it. I'm interested in your opinion when that dropped, and what has that done for you in terms of being a fan of the sport and how you follow it now with the new chase format?
I'll be honest with you. I'm a big fan. I am a big fan of the new format. And I know I'm going to, like I said, there again, it's like tomato. I can already hear the tomato tossing taking place right now. Because the belief system is that if you've been a fan of this sport since before the chase grid, there's no way that you can adopt this new system without holding your nose. And I call shenanigans on that. I think the fact that NASCAR has continued to be innovative with the way with the pressure that they put on drivers, and it gives them something new to promote. It gives them, now you get to pick your nation, so to speak, and now you get to do this. Here's what I didn't like. I'll tell you what I didn't like about the old system.
Okay.
I didn't like a driver showing up to Homestead only having to finish the race in one piece.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I didn't like a guy basically showing up to the track wearing the championship jacket before he ever got behind the wheel of the car.
Right.
And I'm sorry if that benefited your driver more than it benefited my driver. Sorry, but I just didn't like that.
Right.
And it did put emphasis on the body of work. But guess what? People have been talking since the chase grid about points not mattering. Au contraire.
Yeah.
Because you had several drivers going into Richmond that had to do 30th or better to make it into the chase.
Sure.
Even Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher had this whole winning you're in thing. Winning you're in if you're So now all of a sudden you can go out there, you can battle, and let's face it, even if you don't win in a rain delay or whatever kind of excuse you want to use for not legitimizing someone's success, you can go out there, you can battle, you can win a race, and if you're a struggling team, you're going to have to scrape and claw your way into the chase anyways.
Right, yeah.
So to me, it's not just a win and you're in. That has been the popular consensus because the lion's share of the wins have all gone to these elite level teams that are finishing in the top 5 every single week.
Exactly.
That's what enabled Kevin Harvick all the way up until like this past week to be at the king of the mountain, basically, with like 750 points.
Right.
Because his overall performance throughout the season has been so strong.
Yeah.
So all those top 10s and top 5 finishes all weighed into points.
Yeah.
The fact that he didn't have as many DNFs as, like, let's say Kyle Busch did. Kyle Busch was winning the lion's share of the races, and Kyle Busch was several spots down.
Right.
Now, obviously, all the drivers have adjusted to where their actual pecking order. So now Kyle Busch is king of the castle.
Yeah.
But I like the chase because it seems to apply so much pressure. Maybe you don't feel it as a fan.
Right.
Or maybe you're just mad that your driver gets knocked out in the first round, and now all of a sudden, and I guess that's now all of a sudden you seemingly don't have anything to root for. But guess what you can do? You can still root for your driver to win.
Yeah.
You're just no longer rooting for your driver to win a championship.
Exactly.
I don't understand why you wouldn't still want your driver, whoever your driver is, to continue winning.
Right.
So it appears to me that the emphasis actually isn't put on winning, it's put on winning a championship.
Exactly.
And that makes me kind of question the thought process behind a lot of fans anyways. Because guess what? There's a lot of people out there, Chris Buescher, a lot of these people, David Reagan, who have never won a championship, who might not ever get a chance at winning a championship. So do we not promote them and we don't? So we're not going to be their fans because they're not winning championships. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that kind of brings out the snooty kind of temperament of a lot of NASCAR fans. It's, the contention is, well, unless my driver is winning championships and unless they're winning, I don't want to participate in any system that might actually put them in a position to not do that. It's like, hold on a minute.
Right.
The chase grid didn't do that. If your driver isn't in the Final Four going into Homestead, NASCAR had nothing to do with that.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you can blame whoever you want.
Sure.
You know what? I'd call, personally, I'd send your driver a text message. I would, right. I mean, because that's the reality. That's the reality is. And I guess that's just the way human beings are. We're always looking for some form of absolution, even if that comes in the way of pointing the finger elsewhere.
Right.
But I'm a huge fan of it. And I heard people just lose their religion over this whole chase grid thing. I thought to myself, it's no different. Yeah. We're still going to crown a champion. And guess what? Several years back, there were people that were never going to come close to winning a championship going into Homestead because the driver that walked into Homestead already had so many points that all they basically had to do was get behind the wheel of the car and they had the cup in their hand.
Right. Yeah.
So this actually gives other drivers a fighting chance, to be honest with you, because used to be it was Dale Sr., Dale Sr., Dale Sr. I mean, it was, you knew who was going to win the championship because they showed up to the race with the jacket on.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Well, I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree with that. And to add to that, the fact is that with this chase, I mean, it's certainly to me, it's created the drama. We talk about drama, we talk about the excitement and that sort of thing. I don't know about you, but one of the things that I appreciate about this format going into it is the fact that, out of these 16 drivers in the next round, dropping off 4 of them in each round, the fact is that to me, I mean, looking last year at Jimmy Johnson, having the wheel seal or whatever went wrong on him and losing his chase contention, I think it was in the second round. The fact is that it's those elements now that you're done. You're not moving. You're finishing out the season. You're finishing out points and everything else. But very much over these next 3 races in the next 3 weeks, 4 drivers are not moving on to that next round. Yet we're still going to have 7 more races beyond that in each one of those rounds of losing, guys that are certainly supposed to be there, and they're not going to make it. And I've talked about this before. Phoenix last year, rain shortened race. Dale Jr.'s the lead car. They call the thing, and I proposed this out to you guys last week. The fact is that basically a guy in Phoenix, and I believe it was Carl Edwards, needed that win or needed to finish better than he did in order to move on to the Final Four in Homestead. So to me, this chase adds that element where drivers, regardless of the performance, regardless of everything that they're doing, it boils down to they get that last race out of there's 3 races in each bracket. That last race is hugely detrimental to somebody's handful of people's ability to move on to that next round. And to me, that creates a huge level of excitement. Like you said, you're not making it that far. You may show up in Homestead, but you're finishing out the season for far different reasons than what you started for 10 weeks prior. And to me that's where the excitement value is added in this chase format that we have now.
Well, I mean, and I know it sounds so contrite, and I don't that I'm actually being mean. I guess more than anything, I'm just kind of being logical, and that is, it's kind of like the adage is what happened after the tangle between the 31 car and the 14 car.
Right.
The 31 car, obviously, their contention is to blame the 14 for not making it into the chase.
Right.
The 14, of course, Tony Stewart, always being as charismatic as he naturally is, even without trying to be, he makes the comment, well, actually, you've had X amount of weeks to do that.
Right.
The reality is you've had quite a few opportunities to actually make it into the chase. So, I guess it just depends on your perception. To me, I'm just, and you'll have a hard time pinning me down to one driver and one driver only that I root for.
Right.
So I don't just emotionally. I know that's part of the business model for NASCAR, and NASCAR has really worked so hard to get people to attach themselves almost obsessively to one driver.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. The problem comes in that any time that driver stumbles or has any type of hardship, it's like lynch mob.
Right.
Oh my God, I can't believe, what they did to Dale or what they did to Kyle or what they did. You know what I'm saying? It's like, And to me, I just I guess I have the opportunity to stand back and be a little open-minded and think, hey man, it is what it is. That's racing. And that's just I hate that for you. I hate the fact that your driver didn't make it or whatever the story is.
Right.
I hate the fact that I feel horrible for Ryan Blaney. 3 laps into the race.
Yeah.
Destroys that car.
You can see the look of disappointment on his face, man. I think, going into this, it was a one-shot deal, dude. This is the day. This is the day that you've got to make something happen for yourself if you want to make it into that chase. And when I say that, right, that's so much pressure. It's a ton of pressure. Flat out, Blaney was in a position, maybe from a point standing, at finishing better than he did. But the fact is, he's got checkers in his eyes. He's got to get there and hope for something to go famously wrong for a lot of people ahead of him to try to get himself in there. But I'm telling you, you could just tell that, that look on his face afterwards, after wrecking. The fact was he's sorely disappointed over the whole thing. And it, like you said, it was a huge bummer for him. Certainly contending for Rookie of the Year, first season out in a full season in Cup and wanting to get into the chase and that sort of thing. And I'm telling you, that's where some of the excitement for this chase is you take guys like Ryan Blaney. They've got to make it. They want to make it. And it just doesn't happen for them. And a huge disappointment. And like you said earlier when we came back from the break, the level of expectation that fans have on these teams and on these drivers is huge. And the difficulty level in order to make your way into this is amazing. It's not easy. And think about that for however many weeks we've gone, week after week after week after week, every one of these with the aspiration of being here where they're at today. And this is how their regular season ended up. Certainly there's some people that, didn't probably have a big issue with it, didn't think that, weren't all that worried about it. Certainly they wanted to finish as best as they can, accumulate the points that they could, all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, there, like you said, there's a huge amount of pressure on a lot of drivers out there to try to at least point their way in. And, for Blaney, unfortunately, we'll have to see him next year and see what he's able to do.
Guess what? Blaney's season isn't over, so he could still go out there. He could still go out there and he could snatch a win during the chase. It doesn't put him in contention for the chase, folks. If you're listening and you're unfamiliar with the way the chase works, just because a championship doesn't mean that he can't go out and win races.
Yeah.
And there's still money to be had. So
and that's
winning these races isn't free.
That's an interesting perspective too, Evan, is, as we go into this, and we haven't seen it a lot in the last couple years now, but watching non-chase racers steal races away from chase contenders. That's going to I'm hopeful that we're going to see some of that this year because, again, the talent that's out there right now, like you said, certainly Blaney's season is not over, and he could very well steal one away from somebody, especially, like I said, going into those 3 rounds, there's 3 races per round, and it could be that last race. And I'm telling you, that last race becomes significant to a lot of people, and it could very well be taken away by somebody like Ryan Blaney taking the checkers from somebody who needs to advance to the next round.
Well, and here's the deal, too. I think all teams apply a lot of pressure to themselves to perform every single weekend, and I'm sure the 21 team is no different. In fact, the spotter Josh Williams basically told us that. They approach every weekend the same.
Right.
That being said, now that there is no longer any pressure to make it into the chase, their championship contention is over. They have a handful of races to go out there basically without all that pressure.
Right.
And see what they can do.
Yeah.
So maybe there is some freedom in the fact that now you're not racing for the cup in your rookie season, which is a lot of pressure to apply to a rookie. And now you can go out there and you can contend for a win.
Yep.
And like I said, and if you do, great. If you don't, great. If you win, it's great for your sponsors. It's great for your team, obviously. And guess what?
Yeah.
It could be great for your alliance members.
Yeah.
Going out there and snatching a race away from somebody else is going to help Keselowski, and it's going to help Joey Logano.
Right. Yeah.
Potentially, unless they're the ones you're knocking out.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, guys, you're listening to Right Sides Only Radio.
That's the great thing about this. If you can stand back and you can be a little objective, there's a lot of different angles that you can approach this from without getting just too completely wrapped up in emotion.
Well, I'm probably emotional because it's kicking in. It's 4:00 in the morning. I'm running on coffee alone, dude. Hey, you're listening to Right Sides Only Radio podcast. We're live right now. We're taking live phone calls if you want to join us. We got Lexi Gay coming up at the top of this hour. She'll be joining us here shortly. We're going to take a break. If you want to join in on the conversation, I'm actually interested to hear what people's thoughts are on the chase and where your driver ended up in the chase, that sort of thing. I mean, we certainly have an opportunity and a format for you to kind of talk about that. So if you want to join us, 855-482-7223. We'll take a quick little break. We'll be back, and Lexi should be joining us here shortly. And we're back. You're listening to Right Sides Only Radio.
Welcome back, people. Hope you're on your morning drive. Hope you're on your first cup of coffee or Red Bull.
Good morning, NASCAR fans. It's Monday morning.
It is, man. I'm feeling great. I hope everyone else is feeling great. Look, we have something really special for you coming up. It's the top of the hour, and as we promised, we've got some visitors. We got some guests calling into the show. A little bit of background on this young lady. We're talking about a 15-year-old.
Jeez.
I know, 15 years old. We actually did an interview with Lexi here a while back on the rightfronttire.com where we seem to pipeline so much talent. And I'm really not really sure how to preface this, but she is like this big ball of positive energy. She's like the sun. She just never stops.
That's perfect. We could use some of that right now.
Energy. She's always very engaging to people on social media. They are very big about getting information out there and talking to people about racing, and she's big with fans and just really kind of a great big ball of personality. So she obviously kind of fits right into our kind of demographic, so to speak, with the people that we love to promote because she is always just out there. I mean, it's completely out there in the open and really, really kind of just a great talent. She actually had some pretty good success.
Yep. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. If you guys are wanting to get on with Lexi or you have questions, we were just talking about the chase format in the last hour. 855-482-7223. And you can join us there. We're talking about Chase, and we've got these guests coming up. Sorry, Evan. Sorry, I was just looking at a message at an email. So let's try to get Lexi on the line here. Evan. Are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, we're here. Big show. We're doing the big show. If you guys aren't familiar yet, so you can download our app off the Google Play or App Store. Right Sides Only Radio will get the app on your device. You can listen to us online as well. Actually, if we've done good. So if you go out and just Google Right Sides Only Radio, you can actually find a lot of our content there. We're waiting for Lexi Gay to join us. She's calling in here shortly, and once she's on the line with us, we'll be able to speak with her. So we're working through stuff, technical difficulties at the moment, but hey, we're live. That's what happens here.
Yeah, like I said, we don't have a net, so this is
there's no net here, Evan. We're going for broke on this one, so we'll get her on here shortly.
Anyways, yes, we don't really have. I mean, basically, if we flub, we flub, and we flub in front of everybody.
Yeah, so we don't care. Hey. Nothing wrong with a skinned knee every now and then.
No, man. You gotta. Sometimes you have to show people your human side.
Yeah. So Light Up the World Beverages is a huge partner supporting at Right Sides Only Radio at Light Up Beverage. Check this out. So we talk about the water bottles quite a bit. We promote that on our Twitter page and everything else with Darren Hagen doing Light Up the World Beverages. These are water bottles that you can design your own label. He's actually done some great stuff with local tracks and local race teams out here pretty much all over the place. If you've had a chance to go check them out at Light Up Beverage on Twitter or lightuptheworldbeverages.com. If you're doing an event, trying to raise some money, do promotions of something, birthday parties, that sort of thing, you can go out. They can, Darren and the guys will design a label, a custom label for your own water bottles that have LED lights in them which light up. So they're actually pretty cool. So check them out if you get a chance. And then also Zip Air Tools. So again, we talked about this in the beginning of the show today. Zip Air Tools have a new code, 25% off your order, RSOR16. Will get you that 25% savings through the end of this year. So if you've got somebody who's looking for great quality, not just pneumatic air tools, but all kinds of products, whether it's cutting tools, drilling, fastening, the hobbyists, the light manufacturing, the folks over there at Zip Air Tools has what they need to get you situated there. Man, that's a lot. That coffee's really kicking in because I'm going to start getting a little rambunctious.
Yeah, man, you must. You definitely you high-sided on that one, man, for sure. That's
it's kicking in, Evan. It's working.
It's like boom! It finally dropped.
Yeah,
finally dropped. So the fall.
But we got Lexi Gay on the line. Evan?
What time? It's 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah, it's 4:00
on the West Coast. So we might have a couple more listeners now. They might just be getting up and just stepping into the shower. So I hope they got their waterproof Walkman. Well, you can't get I guess you can't get that show if you get your Walkman. So if you're actually that far back in the dark ages, just don't bother listening to us. No, not really.
No,
not really. But
hey, Lexi. So thanks for joining Right Sides Only Radio.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, how's it going? What time is it where you're at?
It should be 7:07
right now.
Oh,
yep.
Evan, high five, dude. We got a 15-year-old up at 7:00 in the morning on a Monday.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for taking a few minutes with us. I know we've kind of been planning this here for quite some time. So I was going to give you like the formal introduction to everybody. This is Lexi Gay. This is actually the driver of the number 77 Gordo's Cheese Dip CM Development Chevrolet SS. Did an interview with Lexi here a while back on the rightfronttire.com, and we just basically everyone just fell in love with her. So,
right.
And what's not to love? So you actually had you had a pretty good weekend at Greenville Pickens, I understand. So what kind of happened there? What's the story?
Yeah,
there?
Take us through that, Lexi.
Yeah, we raced there Saturday, and I have a new team. This past race was my first race with them. New setup. So it was a totally different car, basically, for me. We practiced it all day Friday, testing, trying to shake it down and everything. And rolled straight out of the trailer. It was pretty good. I was really happy with them, really happy with the car. So Saturday, we were good, fast times, all through the morning. Basically got to qualifying, and I am not a good qualifier. I'm still struggling with that part, trying to get going on it. So I got to practice that a few more times for the next race. But
can I interrupt you right there? Why? Why would you say you're not a great qualifier?
This year, my rookie year, I never really had to learn, you have scuffed tires. Mm-hmm. So you really got to, get them warmed up for a lap and then go. Well, whenever I ran bandos, we did heat races. Right. So, you had a little bit and you had other rubber on there, and your tires, you ran all year. So it was just real different.
Gotcha.
Just being in a bigger car, yeah, just trying to get used to doing that. So we got to work on that a few more times for the next race.
But
as far as the race goes,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
As far as the race goes, it was pretty good. The first 50-lap race, we realized what we needed to change for the 100-lap race. I had never ran 100 laps until that night. I think the most I ran there was 60 or 75-lap race. But the first race was good. We needed more drive off the corners, so we adjusted some things for the 100-lap race.
Right.
And managed to pull off 5th in the 50-lap and then 6th in the 100-lap, which I was pretty happy with, my first 100-lap race.
It's actually a very respectable finish, and it looks like you managed to keep your car intact too, which I know makes you happy because wreck cars are very expensive and they seem to hurt feelings. So we don't. It looked like your car was intact. So tell us and everybody else a little bit about this I guess new package or the new group that you're actually racing with.
I'm racing with CM Driver Development. They're out of Anderson, South Carolina. Uh-huh. So right now we're trying to focus the end of the year, kind of racing at Greenville, Pickens. I compared that to Hickory because I ran Hickory all year. Right. And then I got on Greenville a few weeks ago with their car. Just kind of to try it out, different motor, wanted to just get a feel for something different. Right. And I actually loved it. It's really flat racetrack, which some drivers don't like that because it's so flat. But I really like that racetrack compared to Hickory. Different track surface, different people, other racers there. So as far as Greenville, I really like that racetrack.
Right. Hey,
but the team I'm with.
Yeah. Go ahead. That's what I was going to ask you about, that CM driver development program that you're involved with. What is that all about for you?
I've been friends with the owners. So we really just started talking and trying to find something that was a good fit for me. And as far as team owners and communication, because I know today in today's race world, it's really hard to find somebody that'll include me, like trying to be female, because they think, oh, well, I need to go talk to her dad because to talk about the car.
Right.
So I really had a hard time trying to find somebody that would be a good fit to talk to me about the car and communication and all that. So we came across them, and they were a perfect fit, and they're really nice, and it's been really good so far. So I'm really happy with them.
Well, so what does your future hold with them right now for the rest of this season or going into next season? What are your plans?
Right now, we signed on to the rest of the year with them. Just kind of see how they operate and see how we do racing. We're thinking about running the big Myrtle Beach race at the end of the year. So we're trying to get that together. I think we may go into next year with them, just trying to fill out the rest of the year this year.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I actually just noticed the CM driver developments. Obviously, I announced them, and you're with Gordo's Cheese Dip, which has actually been. You and I talked when we were preparing for your interview for the Right Front Tire. We talked about this great relationship that you have with your sponsors. So let's talk a little bit about that and how much that has an impact on your program. How vital this relationship is with your vitality of your team.
Yeah, Gordo's Cheese Dip, I've been really thankful for them this year, just because, it takes companies like them to support a young driver to keep the sport going and keep the people that aren't loaded with money, keep that talent under them and give us a chance to race. But it's been really good with them this year. I've been really close with all the people there. They've really helped me to encourage me and give me the drive to do better each week. We had some people come to the race the other night, and they really enjoyed it. But as far as sponsorship, they've been with me all year through thick and thin, all the wrecks and everything. So they've been a huge support system for me. And I'm really thankful for them this year.
So I know Cliff kind of asked you about your relationship with CM Driver Development. By the way, we're really excited for that relationship, number one, because it's going to give you some different exposure, right? So you're racing at some different tracks, which is something that can't hurt. Moving forward, though, big picture. I mean, I understand that you're 15 years old, so I'm sure, I don't know, it seems like drivers are so much more focused as teenagers than like your average teenager. Like your average teenager can't decide what pair of socks to wear in the morning. But kind of big picture, do you have some sort of map work for the next couple of years kind of laid out, like, okay, here's our next benchmark, or here's where we want to be in 2018, or by the middle of 2017, here's where we want to be. I mean, as far as different series, anything like that?
Yeah, I ran limited late model this year. It's my first year, trying to get a feel for a bigger car and everything. Next year, I think we're going to step up into a late model stock. We may run some late model stock races and some limited races, just trying to shift up, change classes up a little bit. But we're definitely looking into running late model stock next year. Hopefully soon. A lot of people are doing ARCA now, and so I've been kind of looking into that, but as far as right now, we're kind of sticking to late models.
That's good. Really, it's really, really good. And like I said, you've got a fantastic. I mean, like the whole program basically is fantastic. So from top to bottom, I can't give you enough kind of. I'm going to gush for a minute because that's just kind of the way I am. But basically, from the appearance of your vehicle, the way that you carry yourself, your approach to fans on social media, your complete and total availability to people. To me, people have got to be noticing that. So in my mind, I've got to be thinking someone is going to swipe you up and put you in a program. I think it's great that you've got this new deal that you're working with CM. But like I said, big picture in my mind, it's like you really fit the model of what everybody should want to be a part of as far as their racing program. So, I mean, I know I speak for Cliff and I, but hopefully RSOR Nation and Team Tire and, of course, our crazy little Chick-fil-A club. When I say that, I know that great things have got to be coming for you down the pipeline because you have definitely put yourself out there. I mean, you're always well, number one, you're always on social media interacting with people and either through Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Y'all are just right out there, and your car is just fantastic looking. And you're sponsored by a company that makes cheese dip. I don't know what could be better than that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because who doesn't like cheese
totally.
dip? Yeah.
Hey,
so
Lexi, what keeps you busy when you're not behind the wheel, though? You're still doing high school. How are you managing all the expectations, the usual expectations of a 15-year-old driver that's chasing her dream, working through this program, trying to stay competitive, stay in the game and that sort of thing while balancing all the stuff like Evan said earlier, I'm sure there's high school and all that other sort of stuff. How do you balance all that, and what are you involved with outside of the track?
As far as school goes, I go to a private school 1 day a week on Tuesdays. So I get all my work and turn it in weekly. So that gives me the flexibility to go and race on the weekends and kind of go throughout the week whenever I need to go test the racetrack, whatever it may be.
Right.
So I kind of do school on the road. Just kind of depends where we're traveling to, events, or where we're going.
So your schedule keeps you busy enough that you have to do school that way.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good. All right.
With events, different events, and all that good stuff.
Yeah. What else? What else do you do? What are you into? Are you playing Pokemon Go? What gets you going? I was looking at you on Facebook. Obviously doing some research into who you are and what you do. And so what kind of keeps you busy as a 15-year-old? I mean, Evan and I both have teenagers, and so we kind of know the answer to this question.
Have you been following her on social media? She's on the go. She is on the go.
All over the place.
It seems like 24/7. It's like if she's not eating Chick-fil-A, woo-woo,
yeah,
then she's at the racetrack.
Yeah.
So, Pokemon Go.
It keeps you plenty busy.
Pokemon Go, that's classic. So you could say that you're like stereotyping her because she's a teenager. However, I have had
it's a
people
general
my own
assumption.
age just about run me over playing that game.
Oh yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good times.
Well, I want to know if somebody's found a Pokemon Go at a racetrack anywhere.
I'm
sure it's happening.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Silly. Of course
People
they
gotta
have.
find them places.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's tell people before we wrap. Let's tell people a little bit about how they can find you, Lexi. Where can they go? Oh, and by the way, you actually have some promotional items up on board now too. So why don't you tell people a little bit about that and where they can go find you?
You can find me on Facebook, just under Lexi Gay Racing. Instagram, Twitter is Lexi Racing 77. I have a website now where we have it up, and we have some information on there. We're trying to get more on there, but it's just www.lexigayracing.com. And then you can find Gordo's Cheese Dip. I think their Twitter and Instagram's Gordo's Cheese, and then their Facebook's Gordo's Cheese Dip. So you can find me on there too, kind of on both. But majority, I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook all the time. So you can find me on there and follow me, and
good.
I'll keep up with you as much as you keep up with me.
Yeah, we'll try. Lexi, thanks so much for taking the time this morning. I know Evan and I certainly appreciate you taking the time and talking about your program and that sort of thing on Right Sides Only Radio. And like Lexi said, if you want to follow her, she's on Facebook, all the social media places, LexiGayRacing.com. Go check out her website.
Absolutely. Go check out her fan
you.
merchandise and all that. She's got some great looking stuff. So go help support the team.
Yep. Thanks, Lexi. Take care.
Thank you.
Doing whatever you got ahead of you for the rest of the day, and we appreciate you joining us this early in the morning.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. That was Lexi Gay, 15-year-old phenom, as Evan would say, out there.
15-year-old phenom, and she sounds so wise beyond her years. That's like I said. I think driving kind of. I think you have to mature so fast in that sport
Right.
because there's so much riding on responsibility, and like I said, and they're very busy. I mean, you heard basically she goes to school 1 day a week, and then she races. So, I mean, that's pretty much what you spend all of your time doing, especially at that level. You basically spend all of your time working on the car.
Yeah, that's why I love about the work that you do over at the rightfronttire.com. You know, obviously you have a pool of these young drivers that are chasing their dreams. If you guys have a chance, check out the rightfronttire.com. Evan's got stuff up there on Lexi Gay and kind of her background and where she started. Certainly you could fill in more if you're looking for somebody to support and get behind. Certainly Lexi would be appreciative of that, I'm sure. So Good
Yeah,
stuff.
absolutely.
We got
Absolutely.
David Groseclose coming up here in about 10 minutes. He's
Bottom of the hour, basically. Yeah. Bottom of the hour, we got David Groseclose. Really excited to have this guy. We're talking about basically he's the manager over, tire development #1. So his name is actually the NASCAR tire guy on Twitter.
Right.
Interestingly enough, that's kind of how we got introduced, is he thought the right front tire, as far as the moniker itself, was actually kind of comical. That was really kind of how we connected.
Right.
But we're really, really interested in hearing some of his insight.
Yeah.
Cliff and I have talked repeatedly about how good of a job they have done this season managing tires. They really seemingly have gone into this chase now with a lot of data. Not just that, but really without a whole lot of incidental tire failures. I mean, Richmond was a little bit tough, obviously. And we intend to ask, David a little bit about that, a little bit of insight into why tracks like Richmond are so tough and the impacts that the low downforce packages had on tire development and tire management. So basically, if you're a new fan, if you're an old fan, new and old fans alike, I guess, and you're interested in hearing some technical talk about tires, say that 3 times fast.
Yeah.
Then at the bottom of the hour, we're going to have a guy on who can do just that. So we'll have a few minutes with David Groseclose.
Yep. 855-482-7223. You're listening to Right Sides Only Radio. You can join. If we would love to hear from you guys. If you get an opportunity, 855-482-7223. You can throw love our way. Maybe take some questions with David if he's open to it. But like I said, Evan and I got another hour and a half of our podcast here live. So we're looking forward to hearing from you guys if you guys want to call in, 855-482-7223. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with David Groseclose at the bottom of the hour here, and we'll pick this back up when we're back. And we're back, Right Sides Only Radio. We're live right now. We're just kind of take a little time here before David Groseclose joins us. Senior tire manager for NASCAR. I'm looking forward to hearing from him. Of course, having the opportunity to get in touch with somebody like that. And, Evan and I were talking about this yesterday about the Richmond race. Tires were certainly a big deal at Richmond, and looking forward to having the opportunity to dig in with David a little more about what goes into such an important component like tires. And I don't know about you, but, we look at these races every week, and, obviously tire management is always a big deal. I guess from my perspective, tires in general, it's kind of a crazy thing in this sport, to talk about all those various components. Like, we don't talk about engines as much. We don't talk about chassis as much as we do tires. I mean, obviously a very important component to race setups and what's needed out there to win races. And like I said, in Richmond, we saw a big deal about tire management and kind of what the teams had available to use and that sort of thing. So I'm certain that David will be able to shed a lot of light on that. And we're back. We got phone lines open. Sorry, I have an 855-482-7223. If you guys want to join in on the conversation, we're talking about chase stuff. We got about another hour and a half here, Right Sides Only Radio live, and we would love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, we definitely actually looking at Richmond. Like I said, one thing I noticed, Cliff and I have actually talked about this in kind of pre-production, if you will, is Richmond actually was a little rough on tires. I mean, it's historically known to be a little tough on tires, but we saw several left side failures.
Yeah.
Last night, so that's actually pretty interesting, and I'm really interested always in finding out a little bit about the dynamics that kind of drive that. So, obviously, they were showing footage of kind of the brake rotors. So, if you, I think it's like a really cool angle. It's like they're almost taking it like from the bottom of the shock. So, you see the brake rotor glow and then cool off. But what you also see is you see that tire kind of grow. So, and you watch it move in and out, all the loads that tire is taking. Yeah. It's actually pretty fascinating. And like I said, I mean, to me, tires are everything. So, yeah, I mean.
The irony of that statement.
Oh, it's just dripping with irony. So, yeah. And more importantly, the right front tire. So, you know.
Hey, Nectar Sunglasses, so RSOR 15, if you guys haven't had a chance yet, we do have a promo code for that. We put that up on our Twitter site at Right Sides Radio. But Nectar Sunglasses, if you haven't had an opportunity, go check out nectarsunglasses.com. Use our promo code RSOR 15. That'll get you 15% off your purchase. I know Evan and I picked up a couple pairs last week, and they were cool, dude. I've been wearing those. I think I told you this the other day offline, but what I really appreciate about these, one is, you go out and you can spend $150, $200 on a pair of sunglasses to get all the goodies like polarization and everything else. Nectar, I mean, they're all their glasses along all their multiple lines. I mean, they have a great selection of different frames. They do the prescription glasses if you're looking for just something to put your prescription in and walk around and look cool while doing it. Nectar Sunglasses. Get yourself some of that. Save yourself that 15% and support those who support the sport.
Yeah, we actually, one thing that Cliff and I talked about was how incredibly light they are. So they're really not a nuisance. They're comfortable to wear all day. So if you're out on the water, if you're at the fair, like Cliff and the missus were this past weekend.
Yeah, that was fun.
Apparently having a large time. He was sporting the blue sunnies and taking plenty of pictures. So if you're actually on Snapchat with Cliff, if you have the blessing to be friends with Cliff on Snapchat, you'd be surprised.
Oh, you can. I tell you what my Snapchat is if I actually knew what it was. I think it's like I have a unique...
SOU 812.
Oh, there you go. SOU 812.
812. Yeah, there you go. There you have it, folks. Go follow. So all you people now go follow Cliff. You might get some of these gems that I get in my... Because basically Cliff and I are in a contest to just kind of wow each other. So... obviously, no one ever knows where that's going to stop. So
exactly.
That's all good time. And he really likes to take just arbitrary Snapchats of his dogs for whatever reason. So
because I'm surrounded by them, dude. They're always underfoot. That's why I told you earlier. It's early in the morning here. It's 4 a.m. and the dogs roaming the house still. Like, dude, what are you doing? Are we going to bed? Why are the lights on? So, yeah, it's cool stuff. Waiting for David Groseclose to join us here at Right Sides Only Radio. What else we got, Evan? I mean, we've talked about the chase a little bit. We'll dig into that a little bit more.
Let me tell you some big news. Okay. Actually, some big news coming from North Carolina, and I hate the fact that I haven't mentioned this already, but the number 29 Aviator Brewing, Baby Moon Cafe, Nectar Sunglasses, Zip Air Tools, Chevrolet SS, our boy Obi clinches Rookie of the Year.
Oh, B, congratulations.
The NASCAR All-American Series, basically Wheelin' All-American, NASCAR Wheelin' All-American Series, Rookie of the Year. I mean, let's face it, when you're a rookie and you grab a win,
yeah,
that pretty much spirals you into the biggest possibility, which is Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And Obi has managed to do that. Obi has actually managed to do some fantastic things with that 29 car this season. They have made great strides. And if you know anything about Obizinski, Obi, as we like to call him affectionately, and basically everybody else, in case you have trouble actually phonetically spelling his last name, however you go about it, you'll realize that this is a huge, basically Brian spends all of his time at his regular job, spends as much time as he can with his wife and his beautiful little baby, and then they spend a lot of time at the racetrack trying to dial that car in. So they are not afraid to take risks. They'll take a big shot if they have to. They'll change shocks at the last minute and go ahead and take their spot all the way in the back and then battle their way back up front. But like I said, it's all things that make guys like Brian the superstar that he is. Of course, to us, he's got to be a superstar always. But in the hearts and minds of the race fans, especially at Southern National Motorsports Park, Brian Obizinski is the guy to watch on any given weekend. So be paying attention for that beautiful car. And, I mean, it is a really fantastic-looking car.
Yeah, it is.
To do great things. Yeah.
It's big stuff. What else is going on in the world on a Monday morning? It seems kind of light so far. I was looking at some of the news websites and that sort of thing just to try to see what's going on. I know, dude. It's my morning routine. You know, you got to hit up all the different sites and see what's going on.
Yeah, it just depresses me, so I'm just going to talk about NASCAR a little bit. So some interesting news in NASCAR too. NASCAR is actually looking at kind of enhancing, or I guess for the sake of a better term, enhanced enforcement of existing rules during the chase.
Okay.
So I don't exactly know what this is going to look like, and I don't know if NASCAR knows what this looks like, to be honest with you, but I think it kind of comes down to this. If a team is repeatedly hit for the same violation, like they fail laser inspection post-race, which a lot of teams, if you've been watching, have had some trouble with that.
Right.
And it continues to persist through the chase. They're looking at basically levying larger penalties on these teams because, in their opinion, it could potentially alter the outcome of the chase.
Right.
So, I guess in a nutshell, NASCAR realizes that the stakes are exponentially higher right now because there's a cup at the end of this season, and all the money and the fame and the glory that come with it.
Right.
Not to mention the fact that the champion's going to get mentioned on Right Sides Only Radio. Let me tell you something, folks. It seems like it's good luck to be mentioned on Right Sides Only Radio.
And why is that?
Well, case in point, if you look at Michael McDowell, finished pretty good this past weekend, did he not?
Yeah, he finished
on the heels of being on Right Sides Only Radio.
That was it.
He runs out and he scores a top 10 finish. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it would be great if he'd have said, "Yeah, I'd like to thank Mom, Circle Sport Levine Family Racing, Thrivent Financial, and Right Sides Only Radio."
There you go.
We were talking about it way back about what some of these Xfinity teams were going to do in the way of driver development. Guess what? Penske decides to add another team on.
Yep.
See what I'm saying, folks?
Oh, yeah.
There's a method to our madness. I think people are paying attention to us more than they like to admit.
Well, we'll see. Time will tell. Hey, everybody, we got David Groseclose, Senior Tire Manager Systems of NASCAR. We're going to bring David on.
Do we have him?
We do. David, good morning.
David, good morning.
Hey,
How
guys.
you doing? So you on your way to work? Are you on your way to work, or what's your story right now?
I just got to work, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we're at the R&D Center here in Concord.
Nice.
Oh, man, that has got to be – to me, it seems like it's got to be a candy store.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't want to work at the R&D Center?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because y'all have, like, pinball machines and Nerf balls and all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah. So,
Well, we don't have pinball machines, but we do have a ping pong table.
Oh, there you go.
Oh man, yeah, see what I'm saying?
Are you a threat on the ping pong table at all, or do you
no,
avoid
there are
it?
a lot of good guys on that ping pong table. I prefer the one of the 3 simulators we got.
Oh man,
iRacing simulators.
That's the kind of thing that I would prefer too.
Yeah,
that's what I would totally.
You'd find Evan and Cliff on the simulators.
I'd totally be up on the wheel. We'd be like a couple of chimpanzees. Trust me.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just in managing us, but yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get. I mean, obviously, let's talk about what I know is at the forefront of everyone's mind. So tell everybody a little bit about who you are and exactly what it is you do for NASCAR.
Yeah, I was hired in as the tire engineer in 2014, and I actually started doing a whole lot more stuff than just tires. I also in charge of testing as well, and there's a lot that goes into that. But I mean, how I got into it was basically I was a tire engineer for Bridgestone for 7 years in the passenger side, and that kind of prepped me for this job. And I always wanted to get into motorsports. I didn't know if it would be on the team side or if it would be on the NASCAR side or what it would be. And, I got my mechanical engineering degree because I knew I needed some kind of engineering degree to get into NASCAR. So how it came to be is I was just surfing the web one Sunday afternoon after the race and found on NASCAR.com the tire engineering job. So I was kind of amazed and floored that it was actually a tire engineering job because, that was my profession. So
Sure.
It worked out really well. And, my wife said, if you don't apply for that job, I'm going to divorce you. So, she kind of forced me into it.
There's that. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
You must
So,
take
yeah,
so it's like bending your arm to work for NASCAR. I mean, I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
But.
Exactly. And since then it's been, kind of a dream because, I've worked for Brett Bodine and now I work for Gene's Definition here at the R&D Center. So.
Right. So what does a Monday morning look like?
It's really a dream come true.
What does a Monday morning look like for you today? I mean, what's the typical coming off of a race weekend? What sits in front of you today on the plate?
Yeah, I mean, basically Mondays are a little more calm than other days because most of the time, well, today not so much, but most of the time people are still traveling back from the race. But today, most people will be in the office.
Gotcha.
So we'll have some meetings, about the race, and most of our meetings take place on Tuesdays about the race, and we review everything. I have a call with Goodyear every Tuesday to review the tires and any projects we're working on, things like that.
Yeah.
And then Tuesdays also we have the cars that come back for inspection. We have those here for inspection, and that takes up through the morning for the Cup guys, and then if we bring the Xfinity or truck guys, they go on into the afternoon. But it's pretty amazing to see everything that happens after the race.
Yeah.
Here at the R&D Center.
And that's, sorry, we're going to dive headlong into this. So Evan and I were talking about this before having you on this morning. Richmond. I mean, Richmond seemed to have I don't know, was it excessive or was it common to Richmond to have the tire issues that we saw over the weekend? It seemed like, there were several occurrences of tires going down and that sort of thing. And, certainly we would love for you to enlighten us on, that's my question was that pretty typical of Richmond? How does what you're doing and your involvement there, as a fan, did we see anything different from Richmond, or is this pretty typical? And, where does that blend into kind of where your role's at with that tire development team?
Well, of course, any problems we have, we're going to go back and look at, but and Goodyear will know whether or not that was caused because of damage to the car, or if we have some kind of tire issue. But my thought is, we ran this tire, we ran this tire in the spring. We didn't really have any issues. The race seemed to be really good. The track rubbered in good, which is something we look for. And as that track rubber's in, the tire wear gets better, and you don't have as many issues. But like I said, any issue, we'll go back and look at it.
Sure.
And we'll review it in that Tuesday meeting. But I don't think, for this race, I don't believe it's really an issue. I think it's just maybe adding to the excitement.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, in the past, this Richmond race, the fall one, it hasn't had as many passes, and you couldn't use as much of the track as you would have liked to.
Right.
But I think the last couple of races with this newer tire, I think we've done a pretty good job of trying to correct that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Evan and I have talked about this a lot is, week after week, I mean, we certainly haven't, we've seen a lot better development, and we were talking about this yesterday, getting ready for the show today. So last year when we had the higher downforce package, Evan and I were curious to know, how do you guys approach the development of a new tire for this 2016 season when last year we had a much different downforce package than what we're dealing with now? And how does Goodyear or NASCAR, or in your role, how do you guys develop a tire around to match that new setup? Evan and I were speaking of the fact, is the slate clean for this year because of the less downforce, and Goodyear's kind of got a benchmark that you guys start from to develop a tire for this season? Or, how does that work that you could speak to?
Yeah, we developed, and this is one of the reasons I got into the testing program as well. We've developed what we call NASCAR unified testing. We developed that at the end of 2014, which basically we're taking all of the testing, putting the tire testing together with the organizational tests and any NASCAR tests or like rookie tests or anything like that.
Right.
We kind of put that all in the rule book, different sections, and made rules surrounding those to kind of bring them together and save the teams money. Mm-hmm. But it also helps Goodyear because they don't have to go out and select the teams to come to the tire test. So we use points to do that, and we bring those guys in. They do the tire test for us. So back to your question, I mean, what we're really looking for, we look at several things. We look at like corner speed. We look at straightaway speed. We look at driver feedback from the tires. Mm-hmm. And this year, yes, it was pretty much a clean slate because of the downforce package. In 2015, you saw a harder tire, basically.
Right.
In 2016, we went to a softer tire that maybe wore out a little bit more, maybe had a little more give up over the course of a run. And that's one of the things we're looking for as well. We always go back after the races and look and see how we compared to last year with tire fall off, with speeds, lap times, and how much they fell off over the course of a run is a big thing. The drivers are looking for that because every driver out there thinks they can manage their tires better than the next guy. So they think that they have that advantage on the next guy. So that's what all the drivers want.
Well, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought. It was kind of a delay, so I kind of hitchhiked onto your final thought.
No, I was pretty much done there.
Well, I was going to ask and I want to give everybody in the organization across the board a lot of credit. So this new downforce package, like Cliff said, the old downforce package that we had kind of gotten used to, I guess would be the appropriate word for it, was a little tough on tires. Right. It was actually, especially the last season before moving into this new downforce package, was really kind of rough. It seemed like an excessive amount of tire failures. But you roll into 2016, and in all fairness, tires really have not been the forefront of the discussion in a negative way.
Right.
Does this downforce package kind of being a little easier on tires? I mean, I guess in a general way, and what I'm looking for is kind of explain to people who, in as general of a way as you can, obviously, without the dry erase board and that kind of thing, kind of what the downforce means to tires, I guess, in a way. How critical that is to the life of the tire.
Sure. Yeah. Basically, you got. I mean, on layman's terms, you basically got two things you can adjust in the tire, and that's the construction of the tire, which is basically the internal workings of the tire, and you can adjust the compound, which is hard or soft, right? Yep. So the downforce kind of works with both, because when you go into the corner and that downforce is pushing the car into the track, that is more construction. You want the tire to hold up to the force that's exerted on the tire. But then also you've got where the tire's sliding across the track. So with this downforce package, the cars are sliding around a little bit more.
Right.
So the drivers need a softer compound to give them back a little bit of that grip. So, and that's what we kind of tried to do this year, to give them back a little bit of that grip that they lost with the downforce. Replace the aero grip with mechanical grip is basically what we call it.
Right.
And that gives it back, but at some tracks, it depends on what track. Obviously, if you go to Michigan, you're not going to get hardly any tire wear. Okay, but if you go to Atlanta, Darlington, Texas, the rougher tracks, you're going to get tire wear there, and those softer tires are going to start to wear out, and they're going to start to give up more, and that kind of promotes better racing in our thoughts.
Right.
And that's one thing we look at too. We look at the track surface. When I got here, we didn't have any data on track surfaces. Now we've got an extensive database of what that track surface looks like on a microscopic level. I'm not talking about bumps in the track. I'm talking about a picture we take of the track. It's about a 4x6 picture, and it's a 3D image of the surface of the track. And it can tell us what the roughness of that track is. And the rougher a track is, the more those tires are going to wear, and the more those tires are going to fall off.
Interesting.
So we've seen, and that, you actually mentioned this, and this is something that Cliff and I have talked about all season, and I'm not saying that means that we're overly brilliant or very smart. I think we're probably just more observant and probably dumb luck than anything else. But what we've kind of seen with this lower downforce package has been the search for mechanical grip, which kind of brings me to my next question, which is, in this search for mechanical grip, it would seem like all the tweaking that these people are doing to the geometry of the chassis and their suspension, obviously within the inspection requirements, what kind of impact does that have on a tire? Because like I said, you really haven't incurred any real excessive failures this year. So does the fact that the compound you're bringing to the tracks is a little more forgiving kind of counteract the fact that these teams are working harder on their chassis for mechanical grip, twisting and tweaking the cars, if you will?
Right. Well, and that's one of the good things about the testing we're doing now too, because this year we've separated the tire tests from the organizational tests. Last year we had them coupled together, like we would have a tire test at, say, Michigan, and the next day we would have an open test. The only problem with that would be the teams may not be on the correct tire for that race. So this year, like we had a test at Indy, a tire test. We decided what tire we're going to run. We came back about 2 or 3 weeks before the actual Indy race, and we had an organizational test, which let me explain to you what that involves. The tire test is about 4 cars normally, and they're basically running laps. Goodyear's getting feedback from the drivers. I'm getting speeds and data from the teams. We're all looking at that together and making a decision on a tire. The organizational test, one team from each organization can come to that. So we can have 12, 13, 14 cars at those tests. And at those tests, they've got the correct tires, so they can work on their cambers, adjustments to their chassis to make those tires wear better, and they carry that information back to their organization and share that. So I think that's helped a lot this year as well. Like you said, we haven't had really any tire issues this year.
Well, that's kind of interesting. So, and I guess kind of one of our final big questions, and this is kind of like Cliff and I are really curious because like one of those inquiring minds want to know kind of things.
Yeah.
So you see them take the tire off the vehicles, right? You see them during this pit stop. They do this whole big whirlwind, like dust still in the air in 12 seconds. Then you see the tires get shuffled off. They get put on the stand. They scrape all the marbles off the tires, and grease penciling all over this tire. So once that tire has been scraped and beat on and bounced and marked and thrown all over the place, where does it go? What happens to these tires when the race is over? Do they go to a retirement home? Do they get shredded? Do they send them back to the R&D center? What happens to these poor tires? We just kind of see them get beat on, and we don't know what happens next.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously if we have some kind of issue that we want to look at, those tires will come back to Goodyear. Goodyear will analyze those and will determine what the problem was. But if there was no problem with the tires, Goodyear takes them back. They come back and they go to a recycling facility and they get recycled. So, so they could be your rubber mulch out in your yard or in the playground or whatever.
If they don't,
we've got rubber mulch here at the R&D center that's from recycled tires. So,
yeah. So if they don't meet an untimely
there's a lot of things
demise
they can do with the recycled rubber. So,
oh yeah. Do they take those back to the Goodyear garage though, where they mount those tires and all that stuff for the teams? Do those all go back to Goodyear? Is that?
Yeah, they all go back to Goodyear,
okay.
And basically the tires are leased from Goodyear.
Okay.
And so once they're done with them, they get them back to Goodyear. The teams don't have to deal with scrapping them,
gotcha,
getting them recycled, whatever.
Yeah.
So they don't have to have that on their plate as well as getting ready for the next race.
Gotcha.
The lonely life of a NASCAR tire people. There it is, pretty much.
That's right.
It's not an easy job.
Some could have 80 miles on it, some could have 10 miles on it.
Yeah.
So it's
depends on
literally
which
not
track
the
you go
years.
to.
Well, just to kind
But and we've got a tire allotment for the teams as well. There's only so many tires they can buy for a weekend.
Right.
And we're looking at taking that down a little bit to save the team some money. But it's a fine line of whether they've got enough tires or they got too many tires. And one of the things we do for them is let them bring tires from home for practice. And those tires that get left over from a race that haven't even been used, sticker tires, they can bring those back to another race that uses those same codes, and they can use those for practice. Now, a lot of the top-tier teams, they won't do that because the date codes will be older than the ones they're buying at the track. But they can take those tires, transfer them to a smaller team, like a BK Racing or Front Row or somebody like that, and save them guys some money.
Sure.
So that helps out a lot as well.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, just to kind of wrap this up with you this morning, and we certainly appreciate it for joining us at Right Sides Only Radio. The one question that's just sitting outside for me is, going into the chase, does this change any sort of dynamic for you and your role there with tires going into the chase? We talk about teams and drivers obviously being, somewhat under the gun from a performance standpoint. Is there anything particular that changes for you and what you're doing as you go into the chase?
Not really. I mean, of course, the excitement kind of builds, at work, but it doesn't really change as far as what we do. We try not to change any tires for the chase. We try to go into the chase with a known. You know, we're not going to, like, we're testing at Martinsville next month, the beginning of next month, but we're not going to change the tire for the race for this year because, you know, if there is some kind of unforeseen circumstance, we don't want it to affect the chase race.
Sure.
And you know, that's kind of the way we look at it. We try not to mess with the chase races is basically what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, David, I'm telling you, man, this is like so much in our wheelhouse because Cliff and I are such big techno nerds. So
Brainiacs,
yeah, it's kind of like Cliff and I when we're like on the phone or when we're not actually on the show, we like to just drill down and look at all the little gory little details in racing. So having an opportunity to kind of bend your ear a little bit this morning for us is actually just like the coolest thing in the world because this is kind of where the world we live in. But not only that, for our listeners too, I can't obviously thank you and the NASCAR organization enough for letting you come on and do this. So,
yeah,
like I said, we could talk
sure,
to you for hours.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy you guys' show, and you guys do a good job promoting our sport and promoting our up and coming drivers. You know, and you know that's our future. So that that's something we really need to promote. So I agree with everything you guys are doing.
Yeah, well, thank you, David, for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. Like Evan said, we can certainly pick your brain for hours. We could have spent the last 3 on this easily. So,
oh yeah,
but we certainly
absolutely.
appreciate you giving us a little peek behind the covers a little bit about your role. And obviously, you know, as we said before, tires are certainly huge in the implication of each weekend's race that we watch. So we certainly enjoy the background information.
Sure, yeah, no problem.
Well, we wish you the best
on
your Monday. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to hearing more from you, hopefully in the next few weeks over the chase and see how things go, and we'll check in with you again when we get a chance.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, take care, David.
All right, bye.
There you have it. David Groseclose.
David Groseclose, folks, with the NASCAR organization. So, yeah. I mean, lots of things going on behind the scenes, and man, those are some. I just talk that kind of stuff like all day, man.
Yeah.
I like have a list of about 9,000 questions that I can just kind of continue. I guarantee he'd get tired of us long before we get tired of him. Because he's probably thinking, just let me go back to work, please. But I really don't want to talk to you two clowns any longer. But no, I mean. Yeah, absolutely, man. Great guy. So, like I said, I'm really grateful that they gave us the opportunity to talk to David. So, I hope the listeners enjoyed it because that was really the goal.
Yeah,
the goal was to give some people some insight into how this actually works, how this whole thing works. And hopefully, we did that. So,
yep. Absolutely.
Big fun, man.
Well, we're at the top of the hour, going into our third and final hour for Right Sides Only Radio. You can join us if you want to call in, 855-482-7223. Coming up after this break, we got Gary Klutt, NASCAR Next class of 2016, driving up in Canada. We've actually reached across the border here a little bit, and we got Gary joining us in right after this break, Evan.
Absolutely. It's going to be big fun. Final hour, man. It sure has flown by, hasn't it? But final hour. So we're going to have Gary on board, and then after we close, we wrap with Gary. We're going to start going into what Cliff and I think the chase looks like, a little bit of interesting information about what some of the teams are going through, and we're going to maybe give a little bit of some predictions moving forward.
Here we go. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to Right Sides Only Radio. So here we go in the final hour of Right Sides Only Radio podcast. We've been live here for the last couple hours. We're headed into our last and final hour, Evan. You're right.
We're top of the downward side of this thing, man. I cannot believe how fast this has flown by.
Yeah.
It's just like in a blink of an eye, man. It's kind of like our life on this mortal coil. It's just fleeting. It's so short. So please embrace it.
Yeah.
Please embrace Right Sides Only Radio because it's fleeting.
It's fleeting. A couple of guys got up early this morning to bring you guys some NASCAR talk going into the chase. Our guest, Lexi Gay, had already been on, which we appreciate her, as well as David Groseclose.
We got a chance to ride. Got a chance to do some riding nerdy.
Yeah.
With tire and development manager David Groseclose. We were riding nerdy, so I hope you got to catch that. And this next guy.
Yeah.
Next guy's pretty exciting, and I'm telling you, I went and looked at this guy's Facebook page because I just always do that. I always want to learn about the drivers, right? So Cliff talks about this guy, Gary Klutt, which is, I hope y'all are really excited about. He's from across the border, which is really neat. So I go check out his Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
So here's Gary floating in a pool with his racing helmet on.
Yeah.
And I immediately thought, I like this guy already, right? So
raft racing is dangerous.
Raft racing is dangerous, so make sure you wear a helmet. I mean, play hard, but definitely, I just immediately thought, okay, I like this guy. I mean, he obviously has our sense of humor. So
yeah. So Gary, welcome to Right Sides Only Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
How's Monday morning treating you so far?
Not bad at all. I'm actually just sitting in corner one at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and I'm going to do some coaching today, so it's fitting that I'm talking about racing before I start my day.
That's awesome. Gary, if you could you just take a few minutes and, looking at how to introduce you, looking at everything that you're involved with, I mean, for a guy such as yourself, I mean, you are definitely, like I explained to you earlier, we're a little in the dark on the next program. One is I would love for you to share with us how you got involved with that. But before that, can you share with us for just a few minutes an overall view of Gary Klutt and what you're doing up there in Canada right now in your racing career?
I'm a little bit of a renaissance man. We do I do 2 TV shows outside of racing, but as far as racing goes, this is my second full season racing the Pinty Series. Last year, I did the first full season, winning Rookie of the Year, and so this is my second season doing that, and then made my Camping World Truck Series debut up here at CTMP, and just looking to move forward in my career and hopefully move down to the States and get in one of those top 3 national series.
Right. Yeah. So congratulations on that. So Rookie of the Year. I mean, you've obviously been racing for a while in different series, go-karts and that sort of thing, and have had a lot of great success in there. How'd you get into the Pinty Series? What led you into that series there in Canada?
The main thing for me was just finding the sponsorship money. Last year was CTL, and then this year with my pool supplies companies, Pioneer Family Pools and Pool Supplies Canada. We're having some fun with that, obviously.
Yeah.
Finding the sponsorship and then realizing that I grew up road racing, and I saw paths that all these Canadian guys were taking, like Tagliani and Andrew Ranger, and even Jacques Villeneuve runs some of the road courses here in the Pinty Series, and seeing that this is the most competitive road racing series in Canada, and then to add onto that, you are racing some of the best oval racers in the country as well. So getting to learn a ton in this series, and I think it's the place to race north of the border anyways.
Right. Sorry. Sorry, I had a little hiccup there. So now going into this year you're obviously part of the NASCAR Next program for 2016, and you got picked up to drive for Kyle Busch Motorsports in the truck race there a couple weekends ago, and you actually had a really good finish. I mean, that was your first time behind the wheel of a truck, correct?
Yeah, first time behind the wheel. I had a lot of fun. I didn't realize how hard to push the thing in qualifying. We ended up qualifying 15th and got to drive from the back, and I think we were running 4th when I stalled it on warm tires on pit lane there and couldn't get it refired for almost a lap. So that was a frustrating point in the race, but then got to regroup and drove back up to 11th. So
Right.
I had a lot of fun, and it was nice to do it in front of a home crowd.
Sure, absolutely. So take us through the NASCAR Next program. What is it, for us, I doing a little bit of homework and that sort of thing, trying to understand the program a little better, and that's why I wanted you on the show, was to kind of fill us in. NASCAR Next, obviously they have this class of current drivers, which you're one of. What does NASCAR Next program do for a driver such as yourself, and what are you getting out of that program?
There's a lot of things that we do. We go down, or I go down to North Carolina probably 4 or 5 times during this year and next, and things will kind of ramp up as everyone's race season ends. I know we'll get to go down to a chase race and shadow a cup driver for the entire weekend and kind of see what their obligations are on and off the track, and kind of follow how professional they handle their weekend. But then as far as everything else, just working on our marketability, working on each driver's branding, and then having that recognition and having that NASCAR platform to fall back on. I don't know if you guys followed NASCAR's Instagram, but I did an Instagram takeover the other day and had a lot of fun doing that and just getting my name out there. So
Right.
Hopefully when these teams are looking for new drivers, my name will be hopefully on a list, or at least know who I am, and sponsors in the industry will know who I am because of being propelled by that NASCAR platform.
So the NASCAR Next program is it more around grooming you guys so that you're able to attract those sponsorship that you guys are going to need? Is that really what it's the intent?
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I think that's the idea behind it for sure.
Okay.
It is run by NASCAR. They're not giving us driving lessons or anything like that. They're not sending us to race school, so it's kind of working on that off the track balance, which is so big in our sport today.
Sure.
Well, so we're on the topic of actually getting behind the wheel of a race car. I'm really curious about the Pinty Series and kind of what that is. Could you explain to people a little bit about what that series is? Is it because really I just kind of learned about it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's really kind of new to me, believe it or not. So explain a little bit about what that series is.
So NASCAR used to run up here in Canada until NASCAR bought the series in 2006. Came in and kind of, they run it a lot like the K&N series. We run on radial tires. The series initially had 5 ovals and 5 road courses, so there's a good mixture between the two, and I think that led to it being fairly popular up here with a lot of guys like ex-IndyCar racers who can just hop in and say, okay, I'm going to battle through the ovals, and vice versa. A lot of the oval guys who say I'm going to battle through the road courses, but so it's Canada's premier stock car series. And it's kind of it's a little bit of a different feel than I think the K&N series. Probably NASCAR views it on the same level, but it's an end for a lot of the guys north of the border. So the average age is definitely a lot higher, with a lot more expertise than I would say the K&N series.
That's interesting. So I guess, obviously, you would think that, like, weather and all that would play, like, a huge part. I mean, some people, like, in the southern parts of the states, they can race basically all year round, right? Or at least have their hands on a steering wheel of something. I mean, obviously, the seasons all the series have a beginning and an end of the season, but you can still get out there and get on the track. How difficult is the transition, I guess, because you're in Canada. Now, obviously, you're affiliated with a NASCAR-sanctioned, the Pinty Series. How difficult is kind of that crossover? Because I know there's a lot of talent in Canada. How difficult is that to kind of cross over into the States? And do you bring your sponsors with you? Do you shop for sponsors stateside, or is it predominantly Canada? I mean, how does that dynamic work? Because that relationship is always so tough anyways.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a new dynamic, and especially going forward in my career. I've got great support up here in Canada, but looking for those companies that are in both Canada and the U.S., or primarily in the U.S., and just, I haven't grown up in the States physically building those relationships, so that's a little bit of a new challenge going forward for me, is to to help foster those relationships and find those sponsors to move forward in a national series. As far as the weather goes, yeah, it's definitely seasonal here. Hunting season's starting. I think next weekend is our last race, and I'm sitting here, and it's just above 32 degrees here in the morning. It's a brisk morning, so fall is coming definitely up here.
Yeah. Hey, Gary, so talk to us a little bit with this NASCAR Next program, and then obviously getting picked up by Kyle Busch Motorsports for the truck race a couple weekends ago. Where did that come from for you? Was that something that, because of the NASCAR Next program, are you guys on some sort of roster for teams out there that if they have a race where they need a driver or they want to get you behind the wheel or something? What's that interplay between where you're at in terms of your involvement with NASCAR Next, and how does that translate into getting behind the wheel of something like what you did for Kyle Busch?
I think just what I was saying before a little bit, not so much puts me on a roster, but they'll know who I am. I think obviously for this race, being Canadian would definitely help with getting exposure for the race. And I won my first Pinty Series race here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, so I think the fit was there for the weekend. And then they, just being KBM, being aware of who I am.
Right. Well, that's good. So, I mean, you mentioned that you had been a road course racer. I mean, so this is very much a style of racing that's in your wheelhouse. And I would imagine, driving a truck in that series or at that track was, like you said, I mean, it certainly has its challenges and that sort of thing. But, going forward into the next year for 2017, what are your aspirations and your hope to be racing in the 2017 year?
Depends on funding for sure. Working my butt off right now as this season winds down to get those packages together and try and get a final answer for everything as soon as possible. But the goal for sure would be to move into the truck series, and if not run the whole season, run select truck races that I think would be beneficial, and maybe even some Xfinity races on some of the road courses. Just getting used to that car and then moving into the ovals after getting that experience in the truck.
That's pretty awesome. So, how do people? First of all, I mean, like I said, obviously, I went to your Facebook page, and dude, it totally cracked me up. So, I mean, obviously, you have an eye for dry humor, and I'm not really sure. It's really kind of flamboyant. I like it a lot. So, you kind of fit in great with this crowd. How can people find you? And who do you want to give like some big shout outs and big love to as far as supporting your program thus far?
Everyone can find me on all the social media, just at Gary Klutt. I've got a pretty unique name, so I think I've got that for everything. I've definitely got to give big shout outs to Pioneer Family Pools and Pool Supplies Canada.ca. They've funded most of my season. Bothwell Accurate was a big sponsor for the truck race, and then UDMC Weldtech, they were on for their first time during the truck race, and it's awesome having new partners and first American partners. So that's a lot of fun. And then they can also find me on Velocity Channel down in the States there. We do a TV show, family-run TV show, Legendary Motor Car, where I'm buying and selling collector cars, classic cars. In the daily workings, our family business is a restoration shop and a dealership for muscle cars and collector cars. So I have some fun on that TV show. And just, I think 2 days ago was the premiere of a kids driving show I did here in Canada. So having a lot of fun in front of the TV as well. So you might see my face on the screen there.
Very cool.
Well, you're going to have Cliff and I are going to be tuning into those shows. You can believe. You better believe that.
I just looked it up. So you're right down here in the States on the Velocity Channel by Discovery every Tuesday at 10 o'clock or Wednesdays afternoon. Check out Legendary Motor Car. We're going to have to put that on the list, Evan. Good stuff. Well, Gary, we certainly appreciate you for, like I said before, just giving us a little bit of insight into both that Pinty series. You know, being down here in the States, we don't follow as much of it up there in Canada, but we certainly appreciated you taking the time to kind of fill us in on that a little bit. And thanks so much for sharing about yourself and your program. And we're looking forward to, you better believe that you got Evan and I in your, behind you in terms of what you're going to be doing in the next several months and into next year. We're looking forward to it.
Hey, I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah, have a great day, and we'll see you soon, Gary. Thanks so much for joining.
Hey, thanks. I had fun. Take care.
Thanks. Have a good day.
All right, Gary.
Bye. Gary Klutt, NASCAR next driver for 2016, part of that class there. So it's really cool. Like I said, I mean, we talk about this a lot, Evan, on the show, obviously, is looking at these drivers that are in various development programs and various different levels. You know, Gary's obviously got a lot of background racing in different series, actually, like he said, road courses and that sort of thing. I mean, this guy's been doing it for a long time. And if you guys have an opportunity to check him out, go look for Gary Klutt, go follow him on his social media stuff. That guy's busy. You know,
yeah,
he's got a lot going on.
He's got a lot going on. And like I said, he's on. I cannot wait. I absolutely cannot wait to check out the TV show.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now, you know that guy has got a sense of humor.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, you know that he does. So that's great. He's also from Canada. Well, come to find out, we actually have a guy who's affiliated with Right Sides Only Radio on the Right Front Tire, our buddy Al, who's from Canada as well.
Right.
So
yeah, we're
actually, we need more people from Canada. Yeah.
We did.
Hey,
we got two.
We do get two. That's just, I mean, you could say that's plenty, or you could say that's not enough.
Yeah.
So, but no, we're really, really glad. Actually, for all the guests, we've had a great panel. As far as I'm concerned, everyone that comes on our show is fantastic. But in particular, the level of commitment to get up in the morning, and like in David's case, you know, getting up in the morning and helping with the kids and rolling into work and still taking the time to stop and talk to us. And Lexi, teenager,
sure,
actually, with the level of commitment to make sure she's up in the morning. I have a feeling that it wasn't too far of a stretch for her.
Yeah.
I think she's pretty active, so I don't necessarily know that it was too far of a stretch. And, of course, last but certainly not least, Gary Klutt for taking the time to, and he's fixing to climb behind the wheel, and he's fixing to teach some drivers.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. No, that's why I'm saying. I mean, these drivers all over the place are very heavily involved in all kinds of different avenues. You know, when we talk to them on the show and get a little more knowledge behind who they are and what they do. Hey, Evan, we got a caller on the line. We're going to go ahead and bring them on the show. Thanks so much for calling Right Sides Only Radio. If you guys want to join in a discussion, 855-482-7223, get you on Right Sides Only Radio, and we'll have a chat about whatever you want to talk about. But right now, who do we have on the line?
Good morning, gentlemen.
Oh, who's this?
Oh, I bet you I know who this is.
Who's this?
It's Bat.
It's Bat. I never really talked to her in person, so I have no idea. I'm kidding.
Absolutely.
I'm kidding.
What
are you doing, Bat?
She's been on the show before.
I actually got up early enough to talk to you guys.
You did? After all those shows, early enough, I got up earlier.
She's got the whole rolling into work 10:30 though. So flying into work sideways, at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. So what's going on, Bat? What are you up to?
Hey, Bank. Not much. Just got up. I was like, oh yeah, big show morning. Okay, I've missed 2 hours of it.
Yeah, I know.
That's okay. It's available on demand and replay. So if you go iTunes, download the app, Google App Store, Apple App Store, search for Right Sides Only Radio. People can listen to it after the fact. So what'd you think? We're going to the Chase this week. Bat, where are you feeling? You're a Jimmy Johnson fan. So how do you feel about Jimmy going into the Chase so far this year, where he's at?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Jimmy in the Chase is always solid, but the last few weeks we've not seen him doing too well. I don't know how much of that is equipment, driving, Chad testing, trying stuff out for the Chase or what, but we'll see. Jimmy seems to pick it up in the Chase usually, but
you're waving the
nobody can argue with nobody can argue with how strong JGR is, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you talk about Jimmy, you're talking about a 6-time champion, and I always revert. I mean, there is never an inappropriate time to play that card.
No.
6-time champ. Now what?
Yeah.
6-time champ, now what?
Yeah.
So anytime somebody wants to like discredit the issues that they're having, number one, they've won several races this season. And then number two, you always pull out the 6-time champ. So there, I like that. 6-time champ. Folks, if you don't know who Batman is, number one, if you don't know who Batman is, you must be living on a different planet. So you see the various interactions on Twitter and all that on social media, because we're always basically goofing off on Twitter, some of us more than others. Batman is actually the chief cook and bottle washer at therightfronttire.com. She's the managing editor. So anything that basically gets produced on that particular website has gone through her fingers and had the I's dotted, T's crossed, and the occasional wrist slap that she hands to me. So we're a big fan of Bat. She's a big part of our program, and she's going to become an even bigger evolving part of our program in the future. So just in case you didn't know who she was, and in case you live on the moon or something like that.
And it's her birthday today, isn't it? Is it today your birthday?
Always, obviously.
A long time ago. I'm not even sure how that ever actually, but that's just like a random, today's Pat's birthday. So.
It's my birthday.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Excellent.
So how much of the show have you caught?
Well,
have you been here for like the last 2 hours?
I listened to about 10 minutes of it on the app, actually, which works really well and has great sound.
Oh, good.
And then thought, you know what? I should call these guys and shake them up a little.
Yeah, you got to wake us up because the coffee is now turning cold. The pot's almost empty. And, the fuel's about ready to run out.
I'm sure by now it's like 4 a.m. at your house, right?
Well, 5:23 to be exact.
Yeah, it's actually Saturday in California.
Yeah.
So then we just
he hasn't even watched the race yet.
No,
don't spoil it for him.
We talked to Gary Klutt in Canada, and it's like April there. So
yeah, it's April.
Yeah. I caught that. I caught Gary.
Oh, good.
Oh, good deal. Well, like I said, this is this is actually going to be this obviously will be on podcast, so people can go back and they can listen to this show whenever they want. Except this time, instead of getting 1 hour, you're going to get 3 hours of the Cliff and Evan earworm. So
yeah,
good luck with that.
Yeah.
Well, Bat, it's really great to have you on, man. Absolutely. So we'll have to. Well, now we're kind of going to have to give her a free sticker. Apparently.
You get a sticker.
You're going to get the sticker you were always going to get anyways.
Yeah.
But now you in particular are going to get it. So yeah, I might actually. I'll sign the back. Maybe I'll sign the back of it. I'll autograph the back of it. Actually.
Well, okay, then you got to mail it to Timbuktu where Cliff is. Have him sign it.
Timbuktu.
Well, I don't have Timbuktu. I got Cucamonga.
Yeah, that's what she's,
right up the road.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah.
We're actually all going to be, folks, if you're planning on going to Homestead, that's actually going to be the site of the Right Front Tire, Right Sides Only Radio Company picnic. So
woo-hoo. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, I know it.
I'm ready, man.
So,
I get to hang out with you two guys the whole
watching
weekend.
Circuses and freak shows.
Yeah.
Be sure to show up to Homestead, Miami, and we're going to have some tweet ups and some giveaways and all kind of neat stuff. So Cliff might even be on a unicycle. You never know.
Yeah. Never know.
Be very afraid, Cliff.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to going out there. I mean, think about it. I'm excited. The last chase race of the season, we're going to crown a champion. Oh, and I get to hang out with Evan and Bat all weekend. So, yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
I don't know how that can be beat.
It's not going to be. Well, Bat, we thank you for calling in. Hopefully you have a great day out there at whatever it is you do.
Whatever it is you got going on, which you won't be doing for another hour and a half. So, but no, it's always obvious.
You guys do. It's sounding good. Keep it up.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Of course, she's a little biased too, so she kind of has to love
us.
I mean,
just a little.
That phrase. It's like winging out a 6-time champion.
It's like
we play that hard.
Hey.
It's kind of like being a fan of Jimmy Johnson. I mean, it's like, well, that's kind of easy.
It's a given,
Yeah, it's like 6-time champ. 6-time champ. So,
no struggle there.
Yeah, just pick the winning team. So that's okay. And she has, obviously, with Right Sides Only Radio and the Right Front Tire. She's picked the winning team. I can't believe it. She's got great, impeccable taste.
Yeah.
So,
we appreciate it.
Obviously.
Yeah. If anybody else wants to call in, phone lines are still open till the top of the hour when we're going to wrap this sucker up. But 855-482-7223 gets you on the line just like that. Tell us what you're doing, getting ready to go to work or whatever it is you're doing.
see how easy it was. It was totally painless for her. So
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like there was no. We didn't pick her or argue. I mean, of course, she didn't call and challenge us, so we haven't had any of that yet. But
Yeah.
It's too early for challenges.
we're always looking for that, though. So
Bat, we're going to take a break. We got to take a little break. We're at the bottom of the hour here. We got a half hour left. Can you believe this? It went by so quick. But
All right, gentlemen, have a good morning. Listeners, have a great morning.
yeah, thanks so much for joining us and checking in with us.
All right, I'll talk to you guys later.
We're out, Bat. Have a good
All right.
day.
All right, bye.
Bye. Evan, we got to take a little bit of a break here. Like I said, we're at the bottom of the hour. We got a half hour left to this thing. We got probably a little bit of ground to cover in the next 30 minutes when we get back. But we just do want to kind of throw out the fact that we do have stickers now available if you guys are supporters of either the Right Front Tire or specifically at or the Right Sides Only Radio podcast here. Evan and I would certainly love to get these in your hands. We're kind of throwing them out there. If you call us 855-482-7223, we would give you one. But after the fact, if you tweet us, send us a direct message or something like that, if you're a fan of the show and you want a sticker for your cooler, car, beer fridge, toolbox, whatever you want to stick it on, we'll send you one.
absolutely. And actually, when we come back from our commercial break, I actually have another potentially big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Just found out about it just in by one of our followers and good friends, Drunken Brian France, on the Twitterville.
All right.
So when we come back from our commercial break, there might actually be an additional incentive for you to call in and participate in Right Sides Only Radio.
855-482-7223. We'll be right back. Well, we're wrapping up the last half hour of the Right Sides Only Radio Big Show, first annual.
The final 30 minutes, man. We knew the time was just going to fly by.
I
It's
didn't.
like, seems to me we've lived our lives like candles in the wind, Cliff. So we're like the last 30 minutes. So if anyone knows who Drunken Brian France is, he's somewhat of a local legend. We really like this guy. He's actually a very, very, very intuitive, very smart racing guy. Well, he happens to be running this promotion whereby he sells a T-shirt and proceeds go to sponsor drivers, who is actually a really good friend of the Right Front Tire, has been for a really long time. They are basically a not-for-profit organization. A couple ladies basically work feverishly, almost seemingly 24/7, to try to secure funding for underfunded drivers. But he has actually offered up one of his shirts for the next caller that calls in Right Sides Only Radio. He is actually willing to give one of these shirts away. It's a really neat shirt. It's a white shirt, and in bright red letters it says, "Take me to race control. I'm with Drunken Brian France." So
there you go.
It's actually kind of a neat shirt. So there's something else on the table if you're interested in calling in. Other than that, we're going to roll kind of into what we were planning on talking about.
855-482-7223. So there you go. You get a Drunk Brian France T-shirt if you want. Call in. If you call in, we'll get you a sticker, too, to go along with it. And before you know it, man, you'd be styling out there in his T-shirt and our bumper sticker on the back of your car. What more can you say?
Yeah, or whatever you want to put that sticker on. But absolutely, you can flaunt the shirt, you can flaunt the sticker, you can flaunt the shirt and the sticker. So, by the way, basically all the guests that were on our show, it goes without saying, they're going to get stickers.
A sticker.
They're getting a sticker. So
everybody loves stickers.
We'll have more coming in the future in the way of fantastic swag that you can possess. Yep. So let's talk about a little bit about, we got a chase coming.
That's it.
So we have rolled out of the regular season. Crying time is completely over, folks. It is now time to dry the eyes and roll into the chase. So let's take a look a little bit at what that actually looks like in driver standings. Obviously, if you've been following the racing, you should know where some of these drivers are at. Kyle Busch, obviously being king of the castle. At some point, these points are going to get reset, right? When they move into each segment, basically the points kind of reset. And this is where things kind of get dicey. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of people kind of start to lose their religion. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I already told you where I stand with the chase the way that it exists now. I'm actually a big fan. I think the heat's going to continue to get turned up. When you look at the drivers that we're looking at, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, and by the way, I'm reading these off in order of their standings. So Kyle Busch is king of the castle. Brad Keselowski basically tied neck and neck with Kyle Busch. Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Carl Edwards, Martin Truex Jr., Matt Kenseth, Jimmy Johnson, Joey Logano, Kyle Larson, Tony Stewart, Kurt Busch, Chris Buescher, Chase Elliott, Austin Dillon, and topping off the final 16, Jamie McMurray.
There you go.
So,
where do you want to dive in?
Well, I don't know, because basically the last three, 14, 15, and 16th seeds going into the chase have yet to secure an actual win.
Right.
These are going to be the drivers, obviously, we're going to have to pay really close attention to, and this is where that dynamic of points actually do matter. Ask Ryan Newman last season.
Yeah.
He basically pointed his way all the way to the final four.
Right.
So it's not outside the realm of possibility that one of these drivers could perform to the extent that they don't win a race but manage to make it through to the next round and maybe even through to the final round.
Right.
But you want to talk about some tough company that you're facing.
Yeah. Well, so when I look at this grid the way it's set right now, Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski being tied in points with the 4 victories each for this last season and the regular season going into this chase. Denny Hamlin, having a great year as well, following up with his win from this weekend. There's obviously what's interesting to me when I look at this, for a better part of the regular season, Kevin Harvick was very much the dominant seed in the chase, holding on to that first position really until Keselowski started winning, and then that started upsetting him a little bit. One of the observations, like I said, was, and again, we talk about Joe Gibbs' dominance all the time, blah, blah, but the fact is that now 2 of the Joe Gibbs Racing drivers have unseated even Kevin Harvick at this point and pushing him down into the 4th position for the chase. So, obviously we're going into this chase season. We're going to talk an awful lot about these Cup drivers, especially the ones that are, in on wins, and the points are obviously going to matter to be able to move on to a bracket if they're not able to secure a win. Martin Truex, surprisingly, right behind Carl Edwards, 5th and 6th. I mean, the lineup in Matt Kenseth right behind him, so those Toyotas, we talked about this a little bit before we started the show 2 hours ago. The fact is that the way these guys, Toyota has been really pushing the envelope as far as I'm concerned in how they've placed themselves to head into the chase this season. And I would certainly expect that, as we continue to progress, that we're going to see even more out of these guys going into the chase. But is it ironic to you that they've kind of seeded themselves going into the chase the way they have so far? Or was that to be expected? Because, like I said, it seems a little not weird. It's just surprising that Kevin Harvick got pushed so far down the list, and that those Joe Gibbs drivers have done that.
Well, yeah. I mean, number one, this kind of happens. This actually happens going into the chase because, I mean, basically the way this whole thing works is you reach your natural level, the first round of the chase, points wise, because there are bonus points for wins.
Right.
So basically what happens is you have this auto-adjust phenomenon. And now it's not just a function of how you performed overall throughout the season. Now it really is a function of how important those wins are. Right. So you have Keselowski and Kyle Busch each with 4 wins.
Right.
Each one of those wins comes with it an additional 3 bonus points.
Yep.
That explains the 2012 and the 2012. They're locked in a dead heat.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, how you performed in top 5s and top 10s and all that, although it means a little bit, has a slightly less, amongst the winners, obviously, really means a little bit less. It's very important if you're like one of those final 3 guys that made it in on points. But when it comes to the people who have been winning the whole winning you're in, the people that have been winning races, obviously the lion's share of the points are going to the people who have had the lion's share of the winning. So now you're only separated by a very small amount of points. I mean, you're talking about 2 and 3 and maybe 5 or 6 points. So the difference between Jamie McMurray and Kyle Busch, you're only separated by 12 points.
Exactly.
So 16 people, 16 drivers, and they're only separated by 12 points.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing we're talking about. And this is where the tension starts to ramp up. And does it surprise me? No, because look at Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch. They've won 4 races.
Yeah.
So if I'm a Kevin Harvick fan, are my feelings hurt that he's 4th? No, because guess what? He's still in the chase. If I'm a Kyle Busch fan, am I overly fanatic or do I feel overly confident that Kyle Busch is going to set fire? Not necessarily. So just because the points look good, guess what? They all have wins.
Yeah.
And every single one of these drivers, as far as I'm concerned, if you look at least the top 5, and actually here's what's even scarier. Look at the top 10. I mean, you got some really fast company in there between Kevin Harvick, Carl Edwards, Martin Truex Jr. I mean, who doesn't think that guy's going to at least win one more race?
He's had a fast car for at least the last 2 to 3 weeks, man. I mean,
Matt Kenseth, if he can stop being the obvious target of everybody on the racetrack who apparently hates him.
Yeah.
Same thing. Jimmy Johnson, 6-time champ.
Yeah.
So who doesn't think? I mean, obviously you could make the argument that they've been struggling, or you could make the argument that they've been watching. So I've heard both sides. I've heard people say, "Oh, they're just having a tough time and they're just not performing the way they should." And then Jimmy Johnson gets on camera and says, "Man, if I could go back, if I could have a go back, I'd have done things a little bit different, or I made a mistake here, or I kind of hurt us there." And then you don't really hear a whole lot from Chad Canal, so I don't really know what Chad's got going on in the MLB.
They've been pretty silent lately.
Yeah,
I mean that whole thing. I mentioned to this before the show this morning. The hip check that they got penalized for last week on pit road. The fact is obviously these guys are still fudging a little bit with their aero and trying to get that mechanical grip and all that sort of thing. But Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus, they've been silent for a while this year, and it's pretty peculiar to see them coming into the chase kind of where they're at. They've been kind of really under the radar. Jimmy had a tough go of it at Richmond this last weekend as well. So it's going to be kind of interesting to me as we head into this chase. I mean, we could certainly break all this down and talk about every single driver. One of the surprises to me is Joey Logano. I mean, he was so dominant last year, and, watching the replay of the race yesterday with my wife, she made the comment that, she's all, "What's up with Joey?" It's like lately he's just been kind of running around. I mean, he's finished well week after week, but I'm telling you, there's something up with what they're doing over there at Penske, especially with Joey. He just hasn't had that dominance that we've seen out of Brad this year, which is kind of peculiar. But, looking at Kyle Larson, let's jump down to Kyle Larson because he's sitting in 10th. So he found himself a pretty comfortable spot going into the chase with that win, which we were all waiting for, which, I would suspect we're all hanging with bated breath, hoping that he seals one up, at least in this first chase round in the next 3 races. But Kyle Larson, there's so many opportunities for him to continue. I don't know if he's got overall the ability to carry himself in on points. He's been really strong. I don't know about you, but watching him at Richmond this last weekend, Kyle seems to have found something on that team lately, that car. They've been competing really, really well, and I'm curious to see how he continues to carry that over. Because in the 2014 season, as we recall, he kind of got pushed out by Ryan Newman there on that final lap at Phoenix. But I'm looking forward to seeing what Kyle Larson's going to do in that series this year because he's been phenomenally stronger through the last several races, and they've certainly started to hit on something that's working for that Chip Ganassi team.
Well, I don't necessarily think that he has to point. Here's the deal with Kyle Larson is I think now that they have kind of unlocked the code to what it takes to basically win from start to finish, meaning and winning a race, folks, isn't about, don't get me wrong, we always make the joke that really you only have to be leading the last lap.
Right.
But really the truth is, the big picture is you have to unload with the right mentality. Your crew has to be in tip-top shape. Your crew chief has to be thinking basically 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps ahead. Your driver has to be healthy. So basically winning a race is a package deal. I think now that they kind of have that picture of what that looks like, I would say that guy's going to continue to be you're nibbling around the top 5s. Same thing with Joey Logano. We're talking about 10 top 5s, 18 top 10s. Anytime you're juggling around that part of the pack, you're always going to be a threat to win a race.
Yeah.
It might have been of course, in a lot of cases, not, but it might have been a blunder on pit road. It might have been, it might have been a strategy that maybe went awry where you decided to stay out and not take tires or something like that.
Yeah.
But realistically, if you're nibbling around the top 5 and the top 10, at some point I would think you're going to find a win. Yeah. And I think Kyle Larson, we've seen something different out of the team, but more importantly, we've seen something different. Something has shifted in his personality on track.
Right.
And we've hit on it before. There has been a shift in the force, if you will, with the way he's approaching the track, and the way he's approaching each lap.
Yeah, and it's him. That's exactly what we had talked about. Is it certainly seems as though Kyle has matured in his ability to push his car the way that he chooses to, but now understands kind of where those boundaries are as well, which is obviously doing him well.
Absolutely, and I think that's going to, would I put him as a contender to win the Cup? Not necessarily. I think that's an unnecessary amount of pressure. I think making it to the chase is the first step. I think learning how to manage that pressure is very important, especially for a young guy who's relatively new to the Cup Series. Same thing with that team. The comment has been made that if you look at Chip Ganassi as a company, that company is successful at every single level of motorsports they're in.
Yeah.
NASCAR has continued to kind of be taboo for them in the way of success. So I have a feeling that they obviously they have the money. They've got the talent.
Right.
So I think as a NASCAR team, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to learn how to continue to capitalize on success. And I think they're going to be right up there with, like the Penske folks before you know it.
Right.
I put some faith in them. But, like I said, you have a heck of a field that you're going to have to fight through, and you have the usual cast of characters. We've got names that we should be synonymous with the chase.
And that's what I was just going to drop next. In number 11th place right now is Tony Stewart with 2003 points. Obviously Tony Stewart, final year heading into his retirement from Sprint Cup racing. Tony Stewart. So are we seeing kind of a new and improved Tony Stewart? I mean, he was totally gracious about how he handled that incident with Ryan Newman. over the weekend at Richmond. But going into this season, I mean, how do you feel Tony's stacking up against the field this year in the chase?
I think the great thing about Tony, well, I've always been a Tony Stewart fan, not just as a racer, but as a person.
Right.
But coming into this season, he did make the comment about he was going to approach this season like he was going to go out and have fun.
He sure looks like he is.
And I think that, I mean, don't get me wrong, Tony Stewart is always going to be a competitor. And I think the concept of going out and having a good time and really kind of enjoying the experience doesn't mean that he's not looking for a win.
Right.
I just think that in his mind's eye, he's just not putting the pressure on himself that he has put on himself for all these years. I think he really wants to go out. He wants to have a great experience. He's been interacting a lot with other drivers. He's been so much more relaxed and so much more subdued on camera. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not going to take the battle to the track, as we've seen on several occasions.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, I think the pressure's kind of off. I mean, begin with, you're talking about a guy who has basically raced everything on wheels. So I don't really know that the pressure is really there for him to win a championship again. It would be awesome to do it. It would be kind of like Gordon last season.
Right.
We all would have liked to have seen Gordon win a championship on his very allegedly last season racing. Obviously, he's been shuffled back into the limelight again, but I don't know that Tony Stewart really should feel like there's all that much pressure. His fans are not going to love him any less. His sponsors are not going to love him any less. Gene Haas is not going to love him any less. And it's not going to make him any less credible. It's not going to make the history that he has made any less prevalent if he doesn't win the championship. So,
well, and I think what my point was is just highlighting the fact that, you know, compared to last year, I think we're seeing a much different Tony Stewart than we saw last year in the chase, at least. And how he's coming around this year, you can certainly tell that he's not allowing that pressure to get to him. And like you said, just enjoying the process of getting himself there. We'll see what he's going to do on the track in the chase. But the fact is, like I said, I mean, I think we're seeing a different Tony Stewart, that a guy that's obviously got some light at the end of the tunnel. You know, we can certainly expect Tony to be Tony as he continues to race. I mean, like you said, he's not putting a lot of pressure on himself, but I think he's putting a lot of pressure on the rest of the cars that are out there and the drivers that are around him. I mean, he's certainly been dishing it out the last couple of weeks of kind of sending signal of don't mess with me type of thing. You know,
well, yeah, that's the smoke that we all know and love. So, I mean, if anyone really expects any different, if anyone expected that because, he's going to be retiring, that he was just going to lay down, that's you obviously have never paid attention to that guy. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I always look forward to his insight and his approach to things. And this year, he just seems to be a little more easygoing. And I think that that's just a reflection of kind of where he's at in his life. I think he's ready to move on to the next stage, whatever that is. Racing has been his entire life. The guy literally does nothing else. This is what he does. And I think he's got to be looking forward to what the next level in his life looks like. And to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. Yeah. I want to see Smoke when he's not in a cup car.
Right.
What is he going to do next? I mean, what kind of surprise is he going to bring to the scene next? Because you know he's got something in store.
Yeah. Another big one is Austin Dillon, getting himself in, and we're talking about stress with Tony Stewart, but, Austin Dillon was pretty adamant after the last weekend saying, the stress, he's not succumbing to the stress. He said, the stress level is off of him. He's not going to take stress into the chase, and he's going to have fun and try to win and look at, not having pressure put on him. But he also commented on how much he likes Chicago. He's saying that it's one of his favorite tracks and, pretty much set on the fact that I think he's looking forward to winning at Chicago. But Austin Dillon, another great driver that's in the chase right now that was, he's had a fairly decent year himself. And it's going to be good to see what Austin's going to be able to produce through the chase this year as well.
They need to do something.
Yeah.
RCR as an organization needs to do something. These folks have not won a race since Kevin Harvick was running in the 29 car. I don't know what it is that kind of strikes an organization that was so successful and Kevin Harvick left that team. I mean, he's basically been obviously the relationship had started to kind of fall apart between him and Richard, but Kevin's contention was you're not championship with, and that basically was one of the many reasons why he decided to leave the organization.
Right.
They have had an incredibly hard time. I mean, their closest driver basically is Ryan Newman, and after that they fall off the map. Paul Menard is basically sitting at 25th. They have been struggling. I mean, and it's obvious. And Austin has done a really good job this year, in my opinion, of taking what seems to be an underperforming organization and managing to hurdle it into the chase.
Sure.
But you can't. I don't know. I keep asking myself. I wonder how long can you continue to sustain in an environment that's. Let's face it. They reward people that win races. We've seen Roush Fenway. Actually, Roush Fenway is finally starting to kind of find their way out of the fog, and it looks like they're finally starting to find some performance. And it looks like we can start expecting some bigger things out of Roush Fenway. But at some point, you've got to break the curse. And I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I don't know what that magic combination is that RCR needs, but
well, he's done pretty good. He's had 4 top 5s and 10 top 10 finishes for the year. So I mean, he's certainly pointed in the right direction. You may be right about the fact that they need to change it up a little bit to continue to perform there. Austin Dillon's obviously convinced that he's got the right situation to do something in the chase.
Oh, I am too. Yeah. I am too. I think you and I have basically. He's been several dark horse picks, dating all the way back to the beginning of the season. And I've actually picked him before to win because I actually saw that car kind of battling up front.
Right.
He's led quite a few laps. So he's doing everything right. I don't know. Ultimately, here's the problem I think that he's got the mindset to do it, but it kind of seems like right now he's swimming upstream. So it'll be interesting to see what that organization does. And let's face it, a lot of collaborative effort at the 3-car to try to see if they can't make something happen. And I hope they do.
Sure.
And especially for Austin and for RCR as a whole, I want to see them succeed. But hopefully they put all the momentum behind the 3-car to see if they can't pull something off.
Yeah. Well, we got a lot to look forward to, man. The Chase field is set. We're headed off to Chicagoland this weekend, which should be pretty exciting to see. The temperatures are starting to heat up a little bit. I mean, we've certainly seen that after Richmond. It was kind of a interesting situation. Kyle Busch making his comments about Keselowski. I mean, there's certainly some drama that's already starting to unfold out there with the pressures that these teams are going to have to be faced with over the next 10 weeks. So we certainly have a lot to look forward to in the chase, and we'll be breaking that down every week on Right Sides Only Radio as we head in through the chase. We'll be doing our show.
Going anywhere.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere. No way. Now we get it into the meat.
Yeah, and I mean, these teams, basically, nobody can rest on their laurels.
No.
Everything that has happened up until this point, up until the big show, none of that really matters anymore.
Yeah, whole new ball game.
Whole new ball game. They're going to have to roll into this chase with a big bag of knuckles and a lot of heart. So I think this, and like you said, we're already just starting to see some tempers flare. So it's going to be, I would be very cautious about these drivers who aren't in the chase. Steve O'Donnell has kind of thrown the gauntlet out. I think it was Steve O'Donnell. I'm trying to think of which one it was with the NASCAR organization. They basically made the comment in not so many words, basically said, hey, look, if you're not in the chase, let's not wreak a whole lot of havoc to those who are, meaning if you're out there bumper hunting, might be a bad time to do it.
Sure.
And I don't know kind of I want to let the guys race. I want to let them race.
Yeah.
And just because you're not in the chase, obviously, I don't want someone to think that, well, your car doesn't matter this week.
Yeah.
Because basically, to me, it still does. It's still an opportunity for you to go out and win. This whole new rules package that they're kind of starting to garner going into the chase, and I'll be really, really, really interested to see what happens the first time one of these violations cost one of these drivers enough points that they actually risk not making it through to the the next round.
Right.
It'd be interesting to see how NASCAR enforces that as well. So we're going to see some interesting things, I think, going on the chase.
Fun.
It's going to be fun. My pick is still the same for the Cup, and I picked Joey before Daytona.
Yep.
And I'm not someone who's going to crawfish on my pick. I'm going to go ahead and stick with that and say that Joey Logano is your 2016 Sprint Cup champion.
All right.
You can throw tomatoes at me if you want, or I don't really care. You know.
All right.
I got to stick by him though, because here's the deal. I picked my horse, so I'm not gonna wimp out just because he hasn't really performed as well this year as he did last year. I'm not just gonna back off and pick someone more obvious. I'm gonna stick by my guns, and I'm gonna call him the 2016 Sprint Cup champion.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get all fanboy on my pick then, and I'm impartial to Keselowski. I think to me, he's always been a great dominant driver. I love his driving style. I like how he does stuff. I'll take Brad all the way through the chase. I think he's got this. Obviously coming off a strong regular season, so we'll see how it goes. But that's my pick for the chase championship.
Well, that's it, folks. I mean, basically, Cliff and I've called it. So as far as I'm concerned, there's only room for 2 Toyotas.
That's it. Yeah.
So, I'm just saying.
No, I mean, it's hard to pick, right? Without sounding,
I know.
Without
it's all
sounding,
for fun.
Yeah, without sounding like a complete fanboy, like I said. I mean, it's easy to pick any one of these drivers in the field. You never know, and that's what's exciting about the next 10 weeks is watching that play out. It's anybody's game at this point, so we'll have to see what we get.
It's all, really, to me, it's all basically for fun anyway. So, I don't – now, do I want Joey to win any more than any one of these other drivers? Not necessarily. It's just something to kind of to make it more interesting.
Yeah.
And who do you think now going into Chicagoland? Who are you thinking? Very first race of the very first round. Who do you think has the upper hand going into Chicago?
I think Truex is going to take Chicago. I think Truex has been kind of aligned with certain tracks where he does well at. What I'm seeing out of Truex right now is the fact that he's become very consistent, a very fast Toyota. I think a lot of things are starting to come together for that 78 team. So I'm going with Truex for Chicagoland.
I was actually going to go, believe it or not, I was going to go with the number 2 car, Brad Keselowski.
Well, there you go.
So
you can have them.
Just kind of shake it up and see what happens. Well, yeah. Cliff, man, this has been
3 hours.
3 hours. Everyone that is basically listening in. All the people that have supported us so far, Brian Obaszensky, obviously, Lexi Gay, our guest, David Groseclose, Gary Klutt, Zip Air Tools USA, Nectar Sunglasses,
3030
Light Up the World
Coffee.
Beverages, 3030 Coffee.
Follow us on Twitter at Right Sides Radio. You can catch up promo codes if you want to order stuff from all those great folks that Evan just mentioned. Please consider retweeting or sharing the fact that you listen to Right Sides Only Radio. We certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, Batman said the app worked really well. So if you don't have the app, go out and get it, especially now. It's been a great way to listen to our show. Make listening so much easier.
Absolutely. That was the big show. First annual. Folks, we're going to do this every year. That's why we set the bar for ourselves. First annual. That means we have to do it again